So I'm going to be very honest with you, because you also have to look at it from the perspective in which I'm teaching it, in that this is for an AP Euro class. The AP does not focus on like military history. To be completely honest with you, they usually don't even focus on individual battles. And so the way that I taught this was very much from an overarching perspective that kind of just like hit some major points, but it's more of like themes continuing throughout history. Like what caused it? What made this different from all the other wars before it? And then what comes after, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to really be focusing on a ton of like individual battles, anything like that, just because one, that's not really how I teach. And two, for the AP exam, it wasn't really necessary. So just an FYI. Just an FYI. ZJ, if I would like to apologize for falling asleep during last class, wouldn't happen again. How dare you? Emily Aturi, hey Tom, here for the free cactus giveaway. Yep, it's right down the hall. Right down the hall. Yep. Not over sports. Yep, you can use the washroom. Yep. Zedekiss Aturi, yo, Teach, want to hit this vape real quick? You put that away right now. Or you go to the bathroom and you use it like a regular student. Anthony, if I got another Godzilla question for you, in your opinion, which Godzilla era do you prefer? Well, not like the American one that came out, what was that, 1999 or whatever? I mean, like, I like old school Godzilla. I do like old school Godzilla. Rocco, to fire for a lesson, will you bring back the kick was incomplete? It never left. Let's see. Ike Tour, thank you for passionately educating us. Much love. And people like it. Why not? Skykiller, how much paper do I need? Because I'm taking notes. I mean, it's a 93 slide lesson, so it's a lot. Okay, let's talk about World War I. Before we get into World War I, we gotta talk. Now, the lesson that you would have learned before this would have been probably imperialism. That would kind of make a little bit more sense. Geneva Tour, can we say Seminole Tragedy? Yes. Yeah, I would have taught imperialism before this. At this point, we also would have talked about a couple things like talking about Florence Nightingale and talk about Crimean War and all that great stuff. But World War I is just very different, and I like talking about the lead up to it. So, like, we're going to do, like, the typical high school, like, what are the causes of World War I? We'll do Maine and all that great, wonderful stuff. Scotland Fire, Boom Boom Pow Pow, retelling World War I by the Black Eyed Peas. Boom Boom Pow, that one, yes. Zombie by the Cranberries. Alan with a fiver. Oh, they found him dead? All right. May he rot. And just hope the families can find some peace, which not gonna be an easy thing. Mitch, you can use the bathroom. Yes, you can. Yeah. Well, everything, like, World War I is an event. It really is. And it is, like, insane. Just the amount of, just like, what happens in this war. The Western European countries are so not prepared for this, but they think they are. And that's why I find like this stuff really interesting in talking about the everyday person, because you have to get into the mindset of someone going off to war in Western Europe. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of it from Western European countries was excitement. There was a lot of excitement to go to war. Dark Return, Porch Archduke Ferdinand. Comment, if I would I missed that led you deciding to do this as a history minor. Gonna stay the entire time, and you better do World War II next week. I don't know about next week. World War II, I'm doing this more because, like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it in November, but potentially I'll try World War II. That's a long one. SJ to fire. Last super chat for a while, so I could let you teach, but I told my mom about you, and she likes listening to you more. You did your own teachers. I love it. Let's go. Let's effing go. All right. So, talk about good old Maine. So this is not filled in for a reason because I make my students fill it in. If you ever went to a high school in the United States, you probably heard about this at some point, way or another. All right. What are we looking at with Maine? Why do I have that acronym there? What does it stand for? Alliances is one of them. You know what? If I'm going to teach this... Oh, God. All right. If I'm going to teach this, I got to teach this the right way. I got to teach this the right way. Okay. Militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism. Very good. Excellent. Also, when I was a teacher, I never sat down. True story. I never sat down. Unless there was like a quiz or a test, but even then I rarely sat down. Okay. So, let's do this the right way. Okay. So, by the way, if I was teaching this, like, for reals, this also would, this in itself would take, like, an entire class period to talk about. Because, like, I really, really elaborate on this. Probably won't go into that much depth here, but, yeah. Okay. So, we got Maine. Right? This marker is trash. Dying of fire. Hold on. Now, wow, we're going... Now we're going old school. Hold on. Now you're making me get out my bag. It's my teacher bag. This is actually made of cork, by the way. True story. True story. All right. I should have a marker or two in here. There we go. These are good markers. These are good markers. All right. Where did my... I have an eraser in here. I probably have my eraser in here. I do have my eraser in here. Perfect. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, we're going back. We're going way, way back. It's the teacher bag. There we go. That's so much better. Okay. So, talking about Maine, said in the chat before, right? These are like the traditional causes of World War I that is taught in like every single gen ed history class ever. But in AP, I elaborate a lot further on them, and it's not just memorizing this acronym, it's instead understanding it. At this point, you should already have a decent understanding from being in the class of like what's going on here, right? So, militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism. Okay. Yes, it's crappy handwriting. Get over it. Okay, so militarism. This is one. I know you like can't see that. Okay. Militarism is really, really important. What does militarism mean? And do not look it up on Google because I don't care. I want you to be able to define it. That's the whole point. What is militarism? Harley, appreciate you. You came in on a good one. What is militarism? I'll move the beer so I can drink it. Buffing up the militaries of the countries. Sure. War and stuff. Solid. Big guns, bigger boats. True. Building up the military. Country that focuses on the military. Sure. Something about war, strength of the military. Yeah. So making the military stronger. All right. So what is going to cause this to happen? Why would this happen? Why all of a sudden would a whole bunch of countries start building up their militaries? Why would they do that? Like, out of the blue. Yep, good old arms race. Excellent! Love it! Okay. So you got an arms race. What does that mean? You're just racing on your arms. So, an arms race is really important. So, there's a couple things that's going to happen. There is going to be an arms race. which, by the way, if you want to get involved in an arms race, you need a whole bunch of resources. Somebody said that already. You need a whole bunch of resources. Where are they getting the resources from? Where are they getting the resources from? Africa is one of them. Yes. Imperialism. Excellent. Good. Something that we already talked about in the last lesson. Wow, I'm going like hardcore teacher again. So yeah, we already talked about that in the last lesson. So this is going to, the Industrial Revolution changes the game completely, right? Completely and totally changes the game. So now there are bigger weapons. There's planes that are starting to be used. Tanks, which by the way, the World War I tanks suck. They keep on getting stuck. So it's basically a disaster. All these new types of weapons are starting to get developed, right? So it's tied to imperialism because they're getting a whole bunch of resources from these places, and a lot of them are converting them to what will build up their military. 1. 2, why is an arms race, like why is that going to influence a country to build up their armament? Why is that going to help them build up all their weapons? Yeah, tanks sucked. Tanks sucked in World War I. They were awful. They were awful. Territory, fear, to keep up, defend themselves, make themselves look good. Yes. Stelio to fire Greece or Germany, super duper great guy. Appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Protect themselves, sure. Yeah, fear is a big one. Preventative. Yeah, so here's the thing. You want the newest technology, right? Because you want to be able to go into these places and make sure you exert your will and take all the resources and stuff like that. You know, the terrible stuff. But then there's also this issue. There's also the nationalism aspect. So this is where it goes a little bit deeper than like a typical high school class, and this is why it's a little bit more AP. So if you are, let's just name a country. Let's just say you're France, right? You're France. And let's say you start building up your army, your military, right? What is Germany going to do if they see France start to build up their military? This is just simple stuff, right? What are they gonna do? They see them do it, they're gonna do the same thing, right? Only makes sense because, oh, all these other countries are doing it, well, we gotta do it too. And so all of a sudden, militaries get enormous. They get real big. There is a ton of money. There is a ton of resources. There is a ton of basically everything poured into the military. Now, this is very important, okay? I can't emphasize how important this is. The Western European countries at this time in the 1900s, there's like some localized wars. Sometimes there's issues within their territories and things like that. The Western European countries in the early 1900s, they have not been through war. They have not at all. So, I'm going to ask you a very important question. Okay? And I'm going to relate it to football because I know that's something that we can all relate to. Okay. Let's say you're a Chicago Bears fan. Bears fans are like, damn it. So let's say you're a Chicago Bears fan. Last year sucked. Wasn't good. Was not good at all. Didn't win a lot of games. Worst team in the league. Whole 9 yards. Right? Kelvin, when you say Q&A, I think it was your own answer. It's true. It's true. So they don't know. They don't know. So Adrien Tour, the French might remember 1871. Yes. In the 1900s, though, they do not. We also have to talk about who they're targeting here. A lot of the youth. It's a lot of the youth. Okay? Matt, Dan, Tom, I knew this is the route you take. SJ to fire, is it just me, or is Europe particularly more prone geographically this kind of militarism arms race due to so many states directly bordering? Yes, that's why England always had an advantage too. Like during, for example, during like 30 Years War, like Europe like destroys itself, Western Europe, and England's like, we chillin', we vibing. So they have some nice benefits for that. But the important thing is they don't really know. So the Bears fan, you have a terrible season, right? But then a bunch of time passes, a bunch of months pass. And so because of that, what starts happening to Bears fans as we start getting closer to the new season? Tell me what starts to happen as they get a little bit closer. Russo-Japanese War 1904. Also, who's that between? Who's that between? You get hope! You get hope! Right? Oh, man! I can't wait for football! Football's gonna be amazing! We're gonna be so much better! Western European powers. Exact same thing. There are poems, art that is all about glorifying war. It's so beautiful. It's so noble. Because again, good old nationalism is, well, my country's the best too. It's the best. And so because there is a period where they haven't really had an all-out war, and again, this is why we talked about this in imperialism, by the way. In imperialism, when they have Gatling guns, eventual machine guns, they're going against people who do not have those things. That is very important. So while more Western European countries get advanced military weapons, the primary people that they might have conflict with, they don't have those weapons. And so they build it all up, and that is going to lead to a problem. And then you see other countries build up, and it start to go up again. Jack Latour, the Bears even know what hope is. The offseason was the hopeful time. It was the hopeful time. So, militarism, big reason why they are spending a ton of money, like a ton. I actually have, if I'm not mistaken, hold on. Oh, and that's gonna be my other Euro notes. Never mind. I have like the actual numbers too. If you want me to go get them, I can. Of just like how much money these countries, they're spending a ton of money, right? And go to the bathroom, yes. So that's militarism. So you have a bunch of these Western European countries who have the biggest militaries that they've ever had. They're building them up. They have all this weaponry. And there's kind of like this, I want to prove it. And especially when it comes to Germany. And Germany, again, this is something that we would have already learned about. With Otto von Bismarck, Germany gets united. And like Otto von Bismarck is kind of being like, hey, like this is cool. Then Wilhelm II's going to take over and wind up kicking out Bismarck. It's going to disturb a whole bunch of peace. You don't need to know that right this second, but it does happen. Victorious win 8, saying, so France is like the Bears, who had hope, quickly crushed. Then you have Germany, who were like the Cowboys, all the talk just to fall flat at the end. Well, again, this is just human nature. And this is why I love teaching history. Like, this is why I love teaching history. Because, yeah, let's take Cowboys fans, right? Every year, this is our year. But when it doesn't happen, when they don't win a Super Bowl, which has happened since the 90s, every single year, what happens? Well, who are we gonna blame? Who are we going to blame? Because we're the best. We are the best. And again, this is where this comes in, good old nationalism, because if we are the best, well, then we can't lose. And then if we do lose, well, wait a minute. Well, who are we gonna blame? Logan says the refs, right? Right. So Kevin says themselves. Do you think a lot of countries are going to blame themselves? Just to I forget how relatively young Germany is. Yeah, they're like brand spanking new. Tsar Nicholas go to Super Bowl. Yes, Harley. Yes. Right? No, they're not going to blame themselves. And eventually they will blame leadership. They will blame a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Scapegoats. You see where this will eventually go. So that's militarism. They all got big weapons. Now, this is a thing that by itself, alliances, this is not a bad thing. By itself, it is not a problem at all, right? But what is the problem with this when we're talking about this kind of context? Notorious with a 3 so in this case, the Treaty of Versailles. Oh, yeah. Oh, and more. Oh, and more. Why is the problem? Nick's with tour. War is a racket. 1935. Some people get very rich. Oh, you're not wrong. Not wrong. Right? One person's attacked. There's going to be problems. Right? So this is when I would always say this. So let's see. Okay. Let's just say. Let's just say that LQ is in an alliance, right? So LQ's just like wandering around. And then all of a sudden, someone goes, hey, LQ, you're wrong about the lore. Whoa. Hold on. Those are some fighting words. Now, maybe things get physical, right? Doesn't even matter. Maybe LQ strikes first. Maybe this other person strikes first. But LQ might decide to pick up the phone and be like, hey, yo, Tom. And then she'll be like, oh, wait, I don't have this number. DM, hey, yo, Tom. This person over here said I was wrong about the lore. Well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to be like, that's the lore queen. You don't do that, right? So now, something that I'm not even involved with, all of a sudden, I'm getting dragged into this problem because I told LQ, like, hey, I got you. Like, I got your back. We made that alliance. You got my back. I got your back, etc. So now this becomes a problem because all of a sudden countries can get involved in a conflict that they weren't even a part of, which is basically the whole premise of World War I. And the worst thing is, Notorious said, no, not the lore. The worst thing is, alliances can be a really good thing because what are the point of alliances? Like, why would you even do this? Why would you get into an alliance with somebody? Think about it. Think about it. Protection, good. There we go, Nick. Supposed to be a deterrent, right? Because if you, and I always used to divide the kids up and be like, if you're an alliance, you're an alliance, you're an alliance. The thing is, one person is not going to go up to LQ and say, hey, your lore is dumb, and punch her in the face, because then there's going to be consequences because the whole Grossi posse is going to be like, no thank you. So it was supposed to be a deterrent to stop any conflict from happening. Now, the problem is, as I already said, when you have a whole bunch of military might, and on top of that, you have a whole bunch of countries that are now working with one another, it's a recipe for a bad time, right? So, Adrian Fire, the telegrams? Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about telegrams. Telegrams cause lots of problems. It's Nick with tour. Grossies are going to be an exam? No. Only if you want there to be. So then you have this. So now we got the I. So now you have imperialism. All right, marker. So why is okay, but take out the moral problems with it right now. Like, obviously we talked about the horrors of imperialism in the last lesson. But what is wrong with imperialism in the context of potentially leading to war? What is the problem with that? Okay, Tony, that's fighting for resources. Yup. You have colonies you want to keep. Yup. Yeah, so there's already starting to be this competition because, again, if you want to keep on feeding the military machine, well, then you need resources. And as we already talked about, where are you getting resources from? You're getting them from imperialism. And I showed you, like, how much they're actually bringing in. And so there is a finite amount of land and resources, and so there's already some bad blood and some conflict. That was the whole purpose of the Berlin Conference, to bring all these Western European countries together and be like, hey, let's just divide Africa like evenly, okay? Or like, let's decide how we're gonna do this. Meanwhile, Africa was not invited in any way, shape, or form, but they're like, yeah, let's do that. So imperialism, there's jealousy, there's competition, and there's a want for more land and resources, right? So that's already a powder keg. And now, let's get to this last one. This one. Good old nationalism. Okay? Now, remember we talked about good old Herbert Spencer? Good old Herbie, right? That piece of garbage. So Herbert Spencer, he's the one who comes up with the phrase survival of the fittest. It's not Charles Darwin. He doesn't include it until the 4th edition of his book. And social Darwinism is quickly very popular, especially amongst the ruling class, because as we already talked about, it justifies all the terrible things, right? All the terrible things that they are going to do. So nationalism is all well and fine until it's my country's the best, every other country is lesser than, and if we take social Darwinism and we inject it into that, well, now we're looking at it from a standpoint of going, oh, well, we could do whatever we want. And this is kept at bay for a decent amount of time. But again, once Otto von Bismarck is kind of kicked out of his position, the guy who takes over, good old Wilhelm, takes over, he's a war hawk. He is looking at Germany, which is basically brand spanking new. He's looking at it and going, we're the best. We need our time in the sun. And so Germany is kind of like, listen, we're not going to like start a war, but if there happens to be one, we're all on it, right? Patriotism and nationalism are different. Very true. Very, very true. Because again, we are the best. And that's all well and good until you're like, well, now we need to prove it. Well, how do you prove it? Well, we got a crap ton of military might. We got people that are going to back us up. We got land and resources that we want to take. Uh-oh. Ryan Maturi, yeah, that was just talked about in the chat before. Yep. So hopefully the healing process can begin. Now, let's go back to here. So again, this is just Western Europe. We haven't even started talking about what's going on in Eastern Europe. We haven't talked about any of this stuff. But this in itself is also a powder keg. Because you have a lot, we talked about it before, how like science, even pseudoscience, is going to influence culture, ideas. They haven't been to war in a while. And because of that, war is something beautiful. In a lot of minds of Western Europeans, war is, because again, it's a young generation. They haven't experienced war. Oh man, if I go to war, I'm going to be a hero of my country. They're going to love me. Some dangerous stuff. Josh Ventura, nationalism, tribalism, and it's a human flaw. And that's why I love teaching history. Because this is stuff that's like, it makes sense. It makes sense. Oh, romanticize all the way. All the way. You know what? Let me get my numbers. Hold on. Let me get my numbers. So, I had to pull this guy out. This is my old external hard drive. It's the old one. Lucas Stewart, sorry, Professor of the World Series on. What's the lesson? World War I. Good old World War I. Alex Stewart, history lecture from time. Love it. Hell yeah. All right. Hold on, I gotta plug this bad boy in real quick. I bought this like 15 years ago. I have like all my stuff on it too. So please hold. I gotta get numbers going. Numbers. All right, which thing should I not unplug? All right, I'm gonna be muted for like the hottest of seconds. Take this time to catch a breather. Hold on. Should be back. Should be back. Yes. Okay, we're back. We're back. And we moved the camera too. It was just a ghost. Don't worry about it. All right, hold on one second. G. Whittour, leaders of Europe, all related to family infighting. Oh, there's some of that too. Nick Whittour, learn more from you than actual teachers. I appreciate you. I mean, I was an actual teacher, but I catch your drift. I catch your drift. All right, hold on. Let me move the camera back. Move this guy over. Whoop. Okay. All right, let's get back down to it. All right, I should have my numbers in here. All right, let's see. This is good old Maine. Blah, 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 blah. My numbers should be here. Oh, that's my other numbers. Damn it! Sorry, I got the wrong one. All right, regardless. The militaries are, like, insanely big. Yeah, the amount of money and resources they're pouring into it is, like, insanity. And, yeah. All right, I have other numbers for you, though. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Okay. So, that's good old Maine. I apologize. Yeah, there's a couple different numbers here. So, this is good old Otto von Bismarck. Rocking and rolling. He kind of keeps, he's kind of the main man responsible for the unification of Germany. That's a whole thing. Germany, like, also, like, the Franco-Prussian War is, like, really ugly. France kind of goes through some inner turmoil. There's blockades in Paris. They wind up killing their own citizens. It's a disaster, right? But good old Otto von Bismarck says, I shall not live to see the Great War, but you will see it, and it will start in the East. He knows who has taken over for him. So he knows. He knows. He knows this is going to be a problem. He's kind of kept this little bit of peace that's been going on. But once you put in a Kaiser who is all about proving that they are the best, it's going to be an issue. Saint with a tour. Got pics from your teaching days you could show us. I got some old, like, ID badges. Probably lying around somewhere. Okay. So, let's take a gander here at some of the alliances that we were talking about. All right. Notorious 3 say, police that mustache. It's true. So, you have, like, some primary alliances going on. Again, this is kind of like regular gen ed, high school stuff. So, up there, over here, wow, what a journey. Speaking of World War I, please tell me you know about the Harlem Hellfighters. Oh, yeah, that's some pretty standard American history. Yeah, every American history class I've ever taken kind of talk about the Harlem Hellfighters. Hell yeah, it's badass. So, these are the primary ones. Of course, you got Germany, you got Austria-Hungary, which is a dual monarchy, which is a mess in of itself. And then you have Italy. Now, something really, really important. Germany and Italy at this time are relatively new countries. Because before this, Italy was very divided. That was one of the reasons why, for example, you ever wonder, like Christopher Columbus, like why Italy didn't send him over, like he's celebrated by Italians and all this great stuff. Italy really doesn't have that central monarchy that is going to be able to afford and send Columbus over on his voyage. So he's going to have to go to Spain. Again, this is like really, really old stuff. But when it comes to talking about Italy and Germany, there is that kind of connection in which they're like, hey, like we're kind of new, you're kind of new, let's be friends. Then there's Austria-Hungary already. A bunch of Germans are living there too. And then, of course, you have Russia, you have France, and you have the UK, right? Or Britain. So, technically, Russia, man, see, this is a whole different lesson in of itself. The history of Russia is, like, fascinating. It is fascinating. Because Russia, I like to explain, they've always wanted to sit at the big kids' table. Always. Always. And every time that they've made an attempt to either move into Western Europe or be taken seriously, Western Europeans are kind of like, not really. Take a walk. So Russia is kind of desperate to be in with the cool kids. Cave on with a fire. Wish I could stay and watch this lesson. It's my favorite time period to learn about World War I. It's a great time. Well, I mean, great time to learn about. Not a great time to go through. So, all this is going on. Russia is also dealing with a lot of issues. They have a czar. There's some turmoil within the country. But I want to also be very, very clear. There is a lot of turmoil going on at home. I mentioned France before. It's happening in Austria-Hungary. It's happening in Germany. But war is always a really good distraction from issues going on at home, which is why I brought that up during imperialism, because if you're imperializing, like you're getting all these resources, you're building up your economy, all this stuff, and it kind of distracts from like, oh yeah, like we don't have health insurance. Oh yeah, like my kid's arm got chopped off at the factory. Like, oh yeah, I'm breathing in things that are gonna kill me. But look how awesome we're doing, right? Ludicrous to Fire, World War I's my favorite historical event. Absurd and interesting in the descent of humanity. I plan to own a 1911 for the historical value. Good old reliable. There you go. Let's see. Fig with a tour. History lesson on my birthday. Happy frickin' frackin' birthday. I hope you enjoy the day. Agent tour, Russian autocracy. Yes, paradox. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, now we get to good old Franz Ferdinand. Okay. So let's back up for a hot second. Let's back up for a hot second. Okay. So, you see, right over here. Good old Balkans there. So, good old Eastern Europe. Again, if I had more time, we would get a little bit more in depth with it. But what is starting to happen, just kind of like the long and short of it, what's starting to happen is this. Remember how I mentioned nationalism and how it's all in these like Western European countries, all that great stuff? It also is in other places as well. And Austria-Hungary is attempting to kind of flex their might on the Balkans and Eastern Europe because they're like, hey, like we kind of own you and like we want to make sure that you stay this way. But nationalism is starting to occur in these places. And so people are starting to talk of like, well, like, what if we don't want to? Like, what if we don't want to be ruled by you? Maybe we want to do something different. Maybe we want independence. Very, very bad. If you're Austria-Hungary. Agent, I wasn't even supposed to be here. Franz Ferdinand. You're not wrong. So there's Franz Ferdinand. There's his wife, Sophie, as well. This is one of the last pictures of him taken before he is going to wind up being assassinated, which is going to kind of be like one of the major reasons why World War I is going to occur. Everything, yes. Austria-Hungary, a ton. Yes, exactly. So there's a ton of different nationalities that are going on as well. Okay. Gavrilo Princip is the guy who eventually assassinates Franz Ferdinand. It's an insane story. He's part of this group called the Black Hand. I think at this point he's 19 years old. But he's part of the Black Hand. And there is a plot when Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke, is visiting, that they are going to assassinate him. Now, the story of how this happens is pretty crazy. It's pretty insane. Now, a lot of it has been exaggerated over the years. Like, there's thing about a sandwich and all that great stuff. But what I can tell you is that Franz Ferdinand actually survives. He survives the assassination attempt, or at least the first one, that day. So the Black Hand, they go. There's a motorcade with a bunch of different vehicles. They wind up throwing a whole bunch of, like, I think they throw like a grenade. They throw some explosives in there. It blows up the wrong car, so it doesn't kill Franz Ferdinand. Franz Ferdinand winds up driving away. One of the members of the Black Hand, trying to flee from authorities, jumps off the bridge that they're on. He winds up breaking his legs, and the cops are like, all right, we're gonna get you. He winds up biting into a cyanide pill, and he winds up, it doesn't kill him, and it just poisons him and basically like makes his teeth fall out. It's a disaster. But Franz Ferdinand winds up surviving that one. We've all made big whoopsies at age 19. Exactly. All do it. Notorious with an 8. Imagine the Archduke has the plot armor of Rasputin. True story. True story. So anyway, what winds up happening is Gavrilo Princip, this guy right here, right? He's like, man, I just wanted to kill Franz Ferdinand. It's not my day. So he starts walking away because Franz Ferdinand drives away. And there's like always that like made up story about like the sandwich and all that great stuff. But unfortunately that did not happen, even though it's a great story. So basically, if I'm not mistaken, they were on their way to go to the hospital to like visit the people who were just involved like with that bombing of like the assassination attempt. And his driver winds up making a wrong turn on the wrong street. And he goes to put it in reverse, and the car winds up like stalling out. And on the corner of a delicatessen where you could go get sandwiches is this guy. So Gavrilo Princip is like, hey, I'm so sad. I just wanted to kill the Archduke. So he's walking, all depressed. Maybe he's thinking about getting a sandwich. Maybe. It's just upsetting. Down on himself, right? It's like, damn, you can't even kill an Archduke. It's terrible. And then, on the street, in front of him, it's the Archduke in a stalled car. So he walks up, and he shoots him. So, there was actually kind of like an investigation into the driver, because they were like, there's no way. There's no way that he's not involved. They didn't find any wrongdoing. But what happens is this is going to set off a chain reaction that is going to eventually lead to World War I. Because if we go back real quick, oh, and Sophie too. Yeah. Sophie, it's so depressing too, right? They're talking about the children because he does get Sophie too, and Sophie's like talking about the kids, and then he unfortunately she passed away. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. It's sad, and this is going to be significantly worse momentarily. Netco to Fire. If we get to the Christmas Truth, the Sabaton song is sick as hell and needs to be heard. I can't play it on stream because of copyright, unfortunately, but I agree. I agree. Geneva to Fire. Franz Ferdinand shows up on what is basically Serbian Independence Day. It would be like King George III showing up on July 4th. Yes. So it is not happy, funny times. Alp Tour from a shot that would change the world. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because if we go back, right, Austria-Hungary, the Archduke, who just got assassinated, is in an alliance with Germany. Uh-oh. Germany, the one who's like, yeah, I want to fight, like, all day, every day. So he gets assassinated in June of 1914, right? This is the picture from the scene. Sophie's there. They're, like, worried about the children. Passes away. Tragedy. Not really great stuff going on, right? Yes, he was actually a little bit more lenient, too. Yes. So, this is the cell that they put Gavrilo Princip in. If I'm not mistaken, again, it's been a while since I taught this. I think, like, he winds up getting super, super sick. He eventually passes away. But, like, this is the tiny cell that he is kept in. But people are furious. They are absolutely furious at this point. So, oh, by the way, when I was saying big numbers before, I just remember numbers. We're talking about, like, 1 million troops. Like, ground troops. That's what we're talking about right now when we're talking about militarism and building that up. So, this happens. So, Sophie dies. Franz Ferdinand gets assassinated as well in Sarajevo. And it is this Black Hand group. It's a terrorist group, or, like, they call themselves nationalist group. And so, this is where some problems come. Now, you don't have to take all these notes. Oh, no, it was advertised that Archduke Franz Ferdinand was visiting. Oh, it was advertised. It was advertised. So, you don't need to take all these notes, but I throw all of this at you because of how insane these chain of events are. Necro to fire. Fun fact, the Archduke's car, 9 car accidents after the assassination before it was officially taken off the road. I did not know that one. No, I didn't know that one. I did not know that one. So, what winds up happening, and this is why this takes multiple lessons. I actually give my students the primary sources of what Austria-Hungary winds up sending Serbia. Because after the Archduke is assassinated, basically, Austria-Hungary wants to punish, like, all of Serbia. All of them. They're like, hey, this organization killed our Archduke. They represent your people. We want to now punish all of them. And if you're like, damn, Tom, those are some connections you can make in history, I will just politely nod. So anyway, the Austrian government basically wants to punish everyone. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's like changing textbooks and what, like, children in Serbia are going to learn. And they, like, can't speak poorly about, like, the Austrian-Hungarian government. They, like, can't do any of this stuff. It's basically an ultimatum that they know that Serbia is never going to accept. They give them a really short timeline to do it. And it's just, like, outrageous. It's, like, controlling newspapers. It's talking about changing textbooks. It's talking about, like, all this stuff. Like, you can't say anything bad about Austria-Hungary, right? So, Wilhelm II, the Kaiser of Germany, basically goes over and tells the government of Austria-Hungary, they're like, hey, basically, from us, do what you gotta do. You have a blank check from us. We got weapons, we got troops, got the whole 9 yards. So, because we're buddy-buddy, we're in an alliance here, do what you gotta do. So, they present this ultimatum, and of course, it's gonna get rejected. And so now, Austria declares war on Serbia. Is it possible it was staged and Ferdinand lived? No, definitely not. Definitely not. There's too much going on. No, there's no way. Hein, would it fire? Serbia accepted 9 out of 10 terms Austria sent. Austria said no, might not have been avoided if accepted was close. Well, that's what I'm saying, Hein. Like, they included so many things in an attempt to basically draw out a no. And then Austria also was like, yeah, we're not going to accept this. And it gave them, like, a super short timeline, too. So, again, they want to go to war, right? Adrian, would it fire? Austrian Serb ultimatum was written by Wilhelm. Yep, exactly. Written by the Germans. Like, it's rigged. It's 100% rigged at this point. And Wilhelm is like, I want to fight. Yeah, it's 2 days, it's 48 hours. Like, it is nuts. So, Austria declares war on Serbia. And again, it was supposed to be this short, small war, would have taken a summer. It would have been one of the summer wars. They would have gone in, would have won, and then that would have been that. But Germany is also there too. Kermit with a $5. Got the opportunity to visit the World War I Museum in KC this summer. Definitely worth the visit anytime if you're on the fence about it. I saw it. I didn't go to it, unfortunately. During 30 and 30, I definitely want to visit. Definitely. Josh with a $5. Sounds like lessons weren't learned. Sounds like U.S., Al-Qaeda, Israel, Hamas, and others. Decades of unnecessary war. Because history is just the study of people. And people do a lot of crap the exact same way. So, they think it's going to be super duper short. It's going to be fine. So, the problem is, now that you have these two countries involved, when again, it really should just be between Austria, Hungary, and Serbia, Germany is now involved as well. Justin with a tenor. Tsar Nicholas and Kaiser Wilhelm II actually worked out a deal to defuse the situation. Tsar Nicholas only turned his back on the deal when his nobles called the Tsar a pushover. It's a little more than just calling him a pushover. But yes, there is also some bad blood going on between Germany and Russia, which will also continue into the next World War that you will talk about. Yes, they were going to have that was when World War I started. They'll have the troops home by Christmas. So, Germany, I want you to be very, very clear here too, because this is also how quick things move. So, June 28th, end of June, right? This is when the Archduke is assassinated. Less than a month later, the ultimatum goes out. Then again, now there's war. And now countries are going to start declaring war on one another. Then with a tenor, out of curiosity, think Germany had any connections to the Black Hand and the assassination or to establish and test their views on social Darwinism? I wouldn't go necessarily. Here's the thing. I don't think they're going to have ties with the Black Hand or anything. It's more of they are hoping that war would occur. Because that would be the perfect stage, because Wilhelm II always is Germany needs its time in the sun. Basically, let's show off how amazing we are. We know that we are the best. And so this is kind of an excuse for them to utilize it. They don't even need to set it up. But once this happens, they're just yo, Austria-Hungary, we got you. And now we can do that. Next material, picture blocking, text in bottom right corner. Sorry, apologize. I'll go up here. So, what winds up happening is it's a chain effect. Because the Russians, they'll eventually start mobilizing. And Russia, by the way, they have the biggest army in all of Europe. Because they have a ton of people, right? But they don't mobilize everybody. And on top of that, it would take forever because Russia is it's enormous. It takes a while to get things going. And so Germany turns around and goes, hey, we're fighting you now too. So all of a sudden, again, a summer war that was supposed to be between Austria-Hungary and Serbia now is involved Germany, and now Russia is involved as well. Geneva to fire, Europe was going to explode regardless of where it started. Too many huge egos and nobody willing to blink first. You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. Kermit went to her. Germany 25 years. Want to see me do it again? So this goes on now, right? And Germany very quickly is going to find itself in a two-front war, but we'll get there. Because in August 3rd, because again, if we go on back here, remember, so Germany, buddy-buddy with Austria-Hungary, against Russia. Russia and France and Britain are all in an alliance as well. So, if you now declare war on Russia, guess who's getting involved? And again, there is some really, really bad blood between the French and the Germans at this point. And a lot of it is because of the Franco-Prussian War. Not a grand time, right? So going back to this little timeline here, Germany winds up declaring war on France. Cool. So now France is involved. And now Britain turns around and goes, hey, well, we're going to fight you now. Because at this point, Germany is like, we want to march through neutral territory, good old Belgium. And I say good old Belgium, even though they're committing the Congolese massacre. They march through Belgium, and they're like, hey, we want to do this. And Britain's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, they're neutral. They're not in any of this. And Germany's like, no, we just want to do this. And Britain's like, no, you can't do that. Germany's like, all right, well, I'm going to do it. And Britain's like, well, then we're going to fight you. And there we go. Justifier, funny how Russia banked on just using its size and army size to win the war before realizing, oh, wait, we need to supply this army. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is an epic disaster for Russia. On basically every single front, World War I is an atrocity for Russia. So now, at this point, Germany is now at war with Russia, Serbia, don't forget them, Britain, oh, and also France. Have you ever heard Norm Macdonald Germany joke? Yes. Yes. Love Norm. R.I.P. So then Austria eventually declares war on Russia. So now that's another country that's involved with them. And so then Britain and France go, well, wait a minute. Damn it, we're in an alliance with Russia. So, fine. Okay, cool. So now we have to declare war on Austria. Great. And so now, this is where Japan comes in too, in late August. They're also at war with Germany. Now, here's the reason why. This is actually like super important to understand like Japan and why like World War II, they become a heavy hitter in World War II. So Japan goes to war with Germany because like they're kind of allies with the British at this point. They're trading with them a bunch, all that great stuff. Josh Fire, history repeats again because right now Russia-Ukraine war is a disaster for Russia. You ain't wrong. And so they kind of have an alliance there. But they go to war with Germany, Japan does, because they're hoping that if Germany is defeated, then Japan, then Japan gets to, we talked about imperialism? Maybe they get all those outposts that Germany has taken over in the Pacific. Maybe they get to go get some land within China. Because remember, China also gets all divided as well, right? So all this stuff is going on, and now we're declaring war because we're attempting to gain land for it. Because this is going to be really, really great for us. Adrian with a fiver. Yup, Willie Nicky. Absolutely. Yup. So the good old correspondence between Wilhelm and Nicholas. Oh, yes. Supposed to be secret. There's some telegrams that cause some problems in this for a little bit. Right? Oh, Japan and China beefing for a long, long time. So, again, this becomes a disaster. We talked about Maine. We talked about everything that's brewing. And now, it just, because of alliances, because of everything else, it just all-out war. All-out war. But again, they are not ready for it. No country is. So that's a good old political cartoon, right? So what's going on here? What is going on here? That's a really good beer. That is a really, really good beer. So what is going on in this good old political cartoon? Everyone blaming everyone else. Spider-Man meme. Accurate. It's Spider-Man. Right? So it's the blame game. Now, this is going to become very, very important later, too. Italy's chilling. Because remember, Italy, even though they're in an alliance, they're kind of like, we kind of don't want to get involved in this. Kind of don't want to. But look who's pointing at who. Russia's pointing to Germany, right? England, Germany, Belgium, Germany, France, Germany. You're going to see who's going to get blamed at the end of all this, you know? SJ went up, Fitty! Boop! For the kitty as a Bosnian Serb. It's amazing how a bullet from Gavrilo Princip triggered a century of Balkan wars. World War I led to two, the Cold War. Princip's identity as a Serb also contributed to nationalism in the Balkans that boiled over in the 90s. The Balkan Wars. You are not wrong at all. That bullet changes the world. Changes the world. And yeah, leads to a lot fights for independence, nationalism. Absolutely. Absolutely. J&B would never say Germany was the strongest in this war because they lost because they allied with weak countries. Also, the Ottomans marched across the desert barefoot, just stopping the British from taking Arabia. I would say they're the most prepared, but Germany makes an enormous mistake before the war even begins. And they wind up screwing themselves because they get themselves in a two-front war. Just what Fire, what do World War I and II have in common? USA got involved because you touched their boats. This helping you get over Perna's power rankings? Yes. Very, very much so. So now they're all blaming each other, right? Same exact thing. This is what we're talking about. Same exact ideal, demonstrated in a different way. I would show multiple political cartoons because you never know what kind shows up on the AP exam. It's like, hey, if you do this, well, then I'm going to hit you. Then I'm going to hit you. Then I'm going to hit you. And bam, 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 bam. And again, I go back to this because now you go from a war that should have been between here and here. And now it's all of this. And now it's a disaster. So, now this is going to be a big old problem. Because Germany also screwed themselves from the very beginning. Because, if we go back super duper quick, Germany screws themselves because they go, hey, yeah, we'll fight Russia, but hey, we'll also fight France. Oh crap. So if the French send in troops here, and the Russians send in troops here, now we're fighting a two-front war, and this is not going well. Crawdad Tour, War One reminds me to hate Woodrow Wilson. Thanks. Yes, Woodrow Wilson sucks. That's what you need to know about this. That's what you need to know about this lesson. So now, here comes the Schleifen plan. Because they have this issue in which they go, all right, we have to fight Russia, who's on that side, and we gotta fight France, who's on that side. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We are going to go in and we are going to beat up France real, real bad. This is the plan. We're gonna fight France first. We'll take Paris over. Again, Franco-Prussian War. A lot of rivalry going on there. We'll make them surrender. We'll take France out of the war completely. And then we'll go over to Russia. Because the Russians, as we were just talking about, it's gonna take forever for them to mobilize. Because there's so many people, it's so much land. They're also behind on like the Industrial Revolution. They're behind on a bunch of stuff. Like things just happen a little bit later there. And so they're like, all right, we'll be able to do this, no problem. No problem. Kermit, if I raise hand, Mr. Grossi, will we test it on this? I didn't bring any note-taking material. No test, don't worry about it. No test. Necrotifier, that bad French and German blood is all thanks to the Iron Chancellor, Bismarck, pulling many fast ones over Napoleon III and also humiliating him. That is an issue. Yeah, Franco-Prussian War like really stokes those tensions. So it gets to a point where they're like, if we ever get a chance to fight one another again, we cannot wait. We cannot wait. So Germany goes, let's go to France first. Now, do you remember what I told you about like the first days of World War I? It was not good. Why is the first days of World War I so bad? Why are they so bad? What's the issue? What's the issue? Machine guns! There we go! Justin with a $5, saying, funny how NATO and the Warsaw Pact work very similar to World War I alliances. Work with NATO and Warsaw because of nukes, but it almost backfired. You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. Ain't wrong. Zach Fire, please search and watch the video Paul Heyman. Oh, I already saw it. I retweeted it and everything. Yep. Gotta get him. So, machine guns. Big old problem. Because, as we were talking about, the Western European countries haven't faced off against each other. They don't know what war is like. They are over in their territories with people who do not have machine guns. First days of World War I, there ain't anything going quick because you're standing out in the field shooting machine guns at one another, everybody gonna die. So we dig a big old hole, trench warfare, and trench warfare is slow. Slow. You're talking inches. Samuel Tour, Germany sent Lenin back to Russia at Lenin's CCP. Yep. Age of Tour, machine guns in the trenches, not in early 1914. No, the Gatling gun is there. No, we're not in like machine gun trenches yet, but you have Gatling guns that they're using against each other, and like it is a disaster. It is a disaster. Like there's so many casualties, so many people die. And eventually, again, especially as like tech starts to improve as well, you're getting even worse. So it's trench warfare, which is again like moving inches, right? And the Russians also mobilize quicker than the Germans anticipated. Uh-oh. So now they're fighting in France, and now here come the Russians. And so now the Germans go, well, crap. We now have a two-front war. The exact thing that they were trying to avoid. And again, they now have to divide the military might. They need to divide the troops. All that great stuff. Garment! What a 20. Something interesting about Ukraine and Russia right now is there's literal trench warfare and World War I weaponry being used. Maxim guns with red dot sights and drones at the same time. War is hell, but also strange at the same time. It is, yeah. War is, it's pretty nuts. It's pretty damn nuts. I mean, that's the easy way to put it. So, at this point, again, I want you to kind of get in the mindset of the everyday regular person, because this is really, really important. People, for the most part, in Western Europe are so excited for this opportunity. They cannot wait to go to war. There are poems being written. There are songs. There's like, oh my goodness, it'd be so noble. It's beautiful. It's romanticized to fight for one's country. Oh, what is it? Glory. Ooh, glory's a big one. And they think, because again, if you've been going to the gym, right? Let's just say Perna's been going to the gym and he's the cardio is great. He's lifting, jacked, right? And then a challenge is made, like Tom Grossi saying, yo, I'll beat you, wide receiver, corner, let's do some routes. There's no way Perna thinks he's going to lose because I'm the best, right? I'm the best. That's nationalism. So there is this, I cannot wait to fight with all these weapons. Of course, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to beat the crap out of him. Oh, wait, that doesn't happen? Uh-oh. That's World War I. It is a reality shift to the point where it's not even accepted by the losing parties. And again, that's going to be a problem. GV to fire. Mr. Grossi, I forgot my homework with my dog. Can I make up some extra credit? Also, can I go to the bathroom? Yes and no. Justin with a fiver. Think Teddy winning in 1912 changed when the U.S. gets involved, given how Wilson went pro-war media after outlets prior to 1917. Yeah, I would say it makes a pretty significant difference. Crowdown to tour. War is good business. Remember the Great Depression. Oh, I know it. I know it. SJ to fire. Yeah, Pern is a Broncos fan, so he knows he has to be doomed. Of course. So, this is phase one of World War I. Again, everybody's like, I'm the best. Especially Germany, they're all about it. I'm the best. Brand new country, got all these weapons, blah, 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 blah. But it's not just them, because just about every government is like, oh, this is going to be quick. Why? We got like Gatling guns. This is going to be easy, right? Because when we went into Africa, we went into India, yeah, there was uprising and stuff, but that was fine. But now they're facing off against people who have the same technology. And so this is going to go really, really quick. Does not go very, very quick. The boys will be home by Christmas. That's what they used to say. They'll be home by Christmas. This is where you're going to have the majority of casualties in the fields because, again, even before trench warfare becomes a thing within World War I, there are mass casualties because of the technology difference. And eventually when you're going to have machine guns and stuff, that's when you're going to have trench warfare. You're digging holes, and you've seen them all, right? There's these networks, there are tunnels, there's no man's land. You've seen a ton of media about it, Wonder Woman running through it. Trench warfare is horrific. You are in a hole, it's muddy, it's wet, you're getting trench foot, there are rats, there's disease. And the worst thing, too, is it is nothing like any of them pictured. Because again, if you're writing poems, if you're singing songs about how great and glorified war is going to be, we're not running into the battlefield for my country. We're not going and screaming. No, we are in a hole trying to prevent fingers and toes from being eaten by rats. We've been sitting here and we've moved a few inches in a few months. It is a really, really sharp reality check. Current turn, nerve gas, allow me to introduce myself. Yup. Justin with a turn, don't forget World War I made the Spanish flu worse. Yup. It is not fun times. So, again, laying out fields, you got your guns, right? That's fine. Eventually, though, this is like from an old textbook. This is going to turn into trench warfare. And it gets really intense because you have entire tunnels and networks. You of course have the front line, then you have the support behind them, then you have reserve trenches, then you have artillery that is firing as well. Then there's that good old no man's land in between, and there's a ton of obstacles in your way for that. But this is the kind of warfare that these Western European countries are now encountering on a mass scale that they quite honestly haven't before. Crawdad tour. I saw that. Yes, that he died. Yep, Carolina. Yep. Jason with about the Christmas truce. Oh yeah, no, don't worry. We'll talk about the Christmas truce. Don't you worry. So this makes it almost impossible to fight against. Because think about this. If you are trying to fight against this, you gotta go across no man's land. You could fire artillery all day, every day. But you're gonna have to go out there. And again, it is why it is inches. It is a war of inches. And then you might lose that again. And on top of that, remember, they're not prepared for this. This is the famous... the people on the ground, you talk about the colonels and generals, they have no idea what the hell they're doing. They have no idea. 1917 depicts that really, really well. And it's oh, well, you know what? We'll die today. We'll fight today. We'll get some land. We'll lose it next week and all that stuff. It seems very, very pointless. Agent Fire, I think you're missing the point that soldiers were regarded as scum. The recruiting was aimed at keeping friends together. Well, it was also in a sense of going and fighting for the nationalism glorification aspect was 100% a thing. And depending on where you're talking about, are you talking about regarded as in society? Because once we start getting closer and closer, oh, no. They're no, we're going to go fight. Depending on what country you're talking about, it was glorified quite a bit. So this kind of just gives you an idea of the trench layout as well. It's wild. You're talking network upon network upon network. This is also a good old map that kind of shows where some major battles are going to occur as well. On Culture to Fire, the final scene in Black Ladder goes forth. It's just as heart-wrenching, just not as much as Unterdagen. Downfall is damn depressing. You got some depressing-ass movies. Damatur, magic surviving days in a hole in no man's land. Happen pretty often. Damatur using corpses as steps or some defenses in trenches. Yep. So, what winds up happening is what we call a stalemate. right? This is kind of what starts to define World War One. It is slow, it's dirty, and again, you're not really winning anything. So, where I like to go back to is this is just what's happening on the front lines. What is going on at home is that you're anticipating that everybody's going to be home by Christmas, and they ain't home by Christmas. They ain't going to be back for years, which is also going to put a stress, of course, on the home front, and that's going to lead to a whole bunch of other issues, starvation, all that stuff. Hey, Ollie, how we doing? So, just some trench warfare action. Anton, hey Tom, hope all is well. How accurate did you say Peanuts' account of World War One is with Snoopy continues getting shot down by the Red Baron was? Probably 9 out of 10. Good old 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Giggity with a tenor, considering that today's journalism usually has reporters on the ground to capture events more accurately, how exactly is this gruesome warfare communicated to the public to pull the wool over? So that's a great question. So it's not necessarily wool over. They're getting a lot of their reports from the government. So that is kind of like a big piece too, because it's propaganda. They're getting it from the government as well. Letters are being sent, whether a bunch make it home or not, that's a different thing. But it's also like at the home front, it's like rah, 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 we need to support our troops. So there was also lies that were told to people too. And like, yes, we're making ground, but they ain't doing nothing. Because again, as you're talking about like communication, it's pretty tough to come by in terms of like on the battlefield. On the battlefield. Raphael to fire. Wait, a class on the World War that isn't Call of Duty, aka how I learned a lot about the wars. It's a true story. JMB to fire. This makes me interested in the future. If we do settle Mars, could nationalism work for Martian settlements? The weird thing, it might happen soon. I don't know how soon that's going to happen, but, I mean, again, history is the study of people, and people don't change very often. A lot of it is a lot of repetition. So, trench warfare, we're talking about you could literally have, like, your waist in mud. It is horrific conditions. You're not really getting news on what's happening. Your friends are dead and or are dying and or are maimed. And this doesn't just go on for a few months. This goes on for years. So, very quickly, that idea of like, yeah, this is so great, goes away. SJ Fire, would you say modern journalism drastically changed how wars are fought? I wouldn't say necessarily journalism. I would say the internet, maybe. Because now you have, like, literally wars that are conducted, like, online. Like, you have cyber attacks that occur between countries. So I'd say, like, that a little bit more, maybe. Geneva Tour soldiers in World War I all rolled in Nat 1. You ain't wrong. You are not wrong. And again, you're talking about, like, luscious green fields, like, beautiful places that are turned into complete and total wastelands. So you're talking about loss of land. You're talking about loss of life. You're talking about a loss, and this is why, like, this starts to make sense a little bit more. This is why post-World War I, right, is like the lost generation, because if you come back for this, you live through this, you are not the same. Not the same. Kirk Whitaker, thanks for being the hardest working, most relatable YouTuber in the game. Skull made the best team somehow screw it all up. Appreciate you, Kirk. Appreciate you. Monkey with a tenor, just want to let you know that I watch you every day and I love your content, even though you're a Red Packer fan. I appreciate everything you're doing. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, no man's land, bodies could not be buried. Yep. And again, just from the artillery, destroys just about everything. Just about everything. It is horrific. So, don't have to write any of this stuff down. But this is the kind of stuff that's you could expect on the front line. First of all, it's very loud. Very loud. Because there are literally shells and shrapnel exploding just about everywhere. Right? There's mines going off. You are in the mud, cold, in the dirt, soaking wet, just holding on to your rifle that has a bayonet that's attached to it just ready to go. And you know that the chances of you being killed are pretty damn high. Or at bare minimum, you're gonna get messed up. Applesauce with fire, best strips in World War I, Patriots Rams Super Bowl, but it lasted for years. Yep. SJ, the reason I asked that's in World War I, people primarily got their info from propaganda. Governments need to maintain positive public sentiment, and I think a free press makes it more difficult for government to do. I hear what you're saying. I don't think modern journalism has helped that, if anything, because people listen to different news depending on what you want to hear. I mean, propaganda is alive and well today, my friends. Just to attend, interesting how despite government's efforts, word around the front eventually got back to the home front. Also, some fields of France still off limits to unexploded shells. Accurate and accurate. Samuel with a fire. It's a documentary called America's Time. Maybe. I don't remember it offhand, though, to be completely honest with you. I don't remember it offhand. So, and again, even if you got to the other trench, you're dealing with barbed wire. It's ridiculous. Here's some rats. Because again, you're sitting in the mud, you're sitting in the cold, you're sitting in damp conditions. There's gonna be rats, because there's dead bodies, probably your friends. Rats are eating them. That's why, like, some cats used to hang out in the trenches, too, because they would get a whole bunch of free food. But, yeah. Like, this is what we're rocking with. Oh, no, they're big. Oh, no, they're big. And it's actually interesting, talk about connections, too, and someone mentioned about Ukraine. I'm pretty sure, like, I might have been on Reddit or something. There was something I came across, and there was, like, a huge rat, like, outside of, like, a trench. I'm pretty sure it was in Ukraine. And she's like, yeah, those are just some of the issues that are going on. And again, right, you're talking about, and just some of these battles too, because again, this is why I don't get like super duper like involved in each individual battle, because it's more military history and the AP just didn't need to learn it. But you're talking about like 60,000 people dying on like the first day of some of these battles. You're talking about almost 500,000 people going. Like, it is horrific. The numbers that we're talking about, the amount of casualties that we're talking about, are so preposterously, like, they're so insanely large that there's no way that country's gonna be able to even recover from this. All right, Jerry, here's some rats. And again, look at this. Hanging out in the water. There's the barbed wire. Gonna get trench foot, which, by the way, just an FYI, full disclaimer, you are gonna see some pictures of trench foot. Just letting you know. Just letting you know. Noah, if I had Grossi checking in from Green Bay, stadium tour was breathtaking. City tour tomorrow. Let's go, Noah. Enjoy. Enjoy. That's effing awesome. All right. So, you know, if you, notorious for the tour. Oh, yeah. Gangrene. Oh, yeah. So, you know, if you, like, hang out in the bathtub or the shower or the pool or the ocean too long and your, like, hands and your feet get all wrinkly and stuff. Yeah, that's normal. But what happens when you're, like, in the water all the time, like 24/7? That's trench foot, in which you literally, like, your foot starts, like, decomposing. So that's what trench foot is. Gee, if everybody romanticized war at the beginning and soon found out war is anything but romantic, went from Napoleonic War to total war. Yes, ma'am. Agent 5, these are our fathers. Show some empathy. This is what real life is, and this is how governments are teaching this. So that's how I'm teaching it, because these numbers are so insanely large that it doesn't even begin to comprehend, like, how many people are dead. So it's not a lack of empathy. This is how people are being treated at this point, because their governments get them involved in a war. Like, let's just say, for example, you're French, right? You are going to war because Austria-Hungary hates Serbia? What? And so now, it's not that quick war that you promised. And now, this is the outcome. This is the outcome. So, it's not a lack of empathy. It's that governments keep pushing this, and this is the cost of that. So now, this is all happening. Yeah. Agent Fire, not you, the chat. This is the nice story, right? It's a nice story, but good God, it is such a depressing story. Because this is, by the way, if someone donated 500, you got your feed. This was, I would say, like, the moment where you see that it's just people. And that's what I try to do when teaching about war, because that gets lost very, very often. In that it's people. Like, I told you about, like, that Zone of Interest movie that's coming out, I think about like 2 months or something. I show, when I do teach about the Holocaust, I showed, like, and with no context, a bunch of soldiers partying, drinking, smoking, having a grand old time, smiling, and it's the officers' barracks outside of concentration camps. And the reason I show that is because it's very, very easy to be like, oh, they're just like evil monsters. But the scarier truth is like, oh no, they're people. That's not just like an outside there figment of my imagination fiction of like, oh, just a god-awful human being. No. Those are people. And here you see the other side of it. So the Christmas truce of 1914, it's the first year of the war. And remember what was told. The boys will be home by Christmas. Well, it's Christmas, right? So, you have all of these people sitting in trenches. They've been shooting at one another. They've never met any of these people before. Samuel, are you ready for some football? Yes. And so what winds up happening is there is a moment of human connection in this god-awful pit of terribleness. And by the way, generals and things like that are pissed that this is happening. So the Christmas truce of 1914, I'm paraphrasing a lot, but it basically was like, hey, it's Christmas. They're like, yeah. They're like, you want to celebrate? They're like, well, we're already going to shoot us. They're like, I won't shoot you if you won't shoot I. All right. And that's, of course, like a very, like, dumb way to explain it. But you had this along the fronts that say, Devon went to her. Yes, Noel, the movie. Yes, I have seen it. Yes. But it's basically like, all right, cool. They smoked. They drank. They played soccer or football. They played football. Now, this was like a moment of human connection. And this is used a lot as like a happy time and being like, oh, like I was taught this from a very like Catholic perspective, like Christianity perspective, where it was just like God. But the real thing that I like to jump into this Christmas truce about is why is this going to be a problem like the next day? Why is this like an issue for the higher ups? Why is this an issue? And it's really effing sad. Monkey, if I haven't feel this motivated in class since I got picked a pencil in kindergarten. I got you. Exactly. And now, so you do this. You share a beer with them. Because listen, folks, they got a whole lot in common. If it's the Germans fighting the French, right? Why are they oh yeah, Austria-Hungary hates Serbia. Oh, okay. They're Western European countries, yes. Nationalism, absolutely. They're divided in some ways. They drink, they smoke, they like football. Too close with a fire. Watch a midnight clear if you want to experience a Christmas truce. There you go. And so they play games with one another. They bond. They sing songs. They tell stories. And then the next day, they're supposed to go back in their trenches and kill the guy whose name they now know. So the higher-ups, the next day, when they're like, hey, start shooting, Agents, soldiers, soldiers. So you wind up seeing new troops come out. Like there's redeployments coming out. There's things that like change within the troops. They take them off some of the off the front line because they don't want to kill the person that they now had a drink with, played football with, had a smoke with, got to know, had conversations with. So yeah, war effing sucks, man. So the Christmas truth is usually like this really happy thing, but for me, it shows like the complete opposite of like the war, the beauty and part of that, but it's what happens next and the no, you gotta go kill them now. That is just like, damn. For months, sitting in holes, their friends are dead, bombs, whole 9 yards, maimed. And then they got to like have a holiday they're supposed to be back home for. Tim and Fire, if the only ones making the decision about fighting wars are the ones doing the actual fighting, bet you there'd be a lot less war. You ain't wrong. Justin and Fire said out a lot who celebrate the Christmas truce died within a year, and when soldiers tried doing it in 1915, yep, ordered artillery barrages. Yes, it's a great point, Justin. It only happens this time. It does not happen again the following year. Because they learned. Twist with Fire, that's why the military tells soldiers to see the enemy as targets and not humans. Gotta dehumanize. Janine with Fire, it's amazing the travesties humans can do when they dehumanize the enemy. Yep. Yep, and yep. So. Eventually, after a time, Applesauce of Fire, Pern is pretty old. Does he remember any of this when it was happening? Yeah, I think this happened when he was in his 30s, I think. So, because trench warfare is a thing, it's not going well. You are going to see a bunch of countries attempt to find ways to break the stalemate. Samuel to Fire, how dare you be friends with the enemy? But they're just like us. We both love football, have a girlfriend we want to go back to. Do I have to? So, tanks. Tanks suck. They suck. Why do tanks suck? Can anyone tell me why World War I tanks suck so much? Because they do. Oh, trust me, they do. Why are they so ineffective? Mobility? Mud. There we go. First of all, they're slow. Second of all, they're not really tested out too well because they're still relatively new. Chris, welcome to the posse. Appreciate you. On top of that, not really working on the trenches, but the amount of tanks that get stuck in the mud and now they're useless, there's a lot of them. So, Applesauce wouldn't fire because you can't turn them. Oh, that's also a problem too. And again, they're super duper young. And so now they go, okay, here's what we're going to do. Gas. Now we're going for gas. Now, gas, chemical warfare, it's ugly. It is ugly, ugly stuff. And when you start talking about this and you start talking about like the original usage for it and that it was like an attempt to like grow more crops because like pesticides and all that great wonderful stuff, and eventually it gets utilized by this, and if I'm not mistaken, that's on me. I just haven't taught this in a while. Hold on one second. Hold on, let me see here. Is this you? Yeah, this was it. Okay, so, by the way, won Nobel Prize, by the way. It was Fritz, oh my god, what is his name? I don't remember his name. But regardless, he's a chemist. He winds up winning like a Nobel Prize, whatever. It's supposed to help people. Eventually, it gets used against people, and it is horrific. Now, why doesn't gas work, though? Because it works for a little bit. It works for a little... Here, yes. Haber. Yes. I forget the pronunciation, but yes. Yes. Yeah, he won a Nobel Prize. Won a Nobel Prize. So, wind shifts, blows right back on you. That happens a bunch. And then, gas masks, right? Gas masks become a staple of trench warfare. And again, just take a look. And again, this is stuff that's burning your skin. It's burning your eyes, right? It's not good stuff. And so again, you have wind that's going to occur. You have gas masks that are going to start to become a little bit more normalized. Even horses gonna get their own gas mask. I get that as well, right? And so this becomes familiar. And so because of that, there's an attempt to make like worse and worse types. And then eventually, you're gonna kind of see like it shift off a little bit because gas masks are gonna become like kind of a really big thing at this point. There is, again, I don't know how deep you want to get into this. Haber, the guy who creates this, who wins the Nobel Prize, he comes from a German Jewish family. And gas that will eventually get to the point that is going to be used in the chambers, World War II during the Holocaust. Yeah. It's that's the heavy stuff. That's the heavy stuff. Adrian Wintour, are we conflating phosphine gas which used in 1915 with the tanks in 1917? No. So I'm talking again more as a whole of like why eventually this stuff is not going to work out as well, because this is the part where it's like, what are countries trying to do to break the stalemate? So they're trying tanks, they're trying gas, they're trying a number of things that they're pouring more resources and times and all that stuff into to try and develop, but it's not working out. Geneva to fire, gas match the reason. AH has a tiny mustache. There you go. There you go. Okay, so again, this is like what isn't working. Q. There you go. There you go. Trenches, right? Here's your good old tanks, because they're trying anything. Anything. So, again, Adrian, again, to answer your question, that's what this part is, right? So it's like, why isn't it working? You have trenches. Let's try gas. Gas not really working too well. All right, let's try tanks as well. So these are happening throughout different time periods within World War I, but it's combined just so, like, if they're asking in an essay, like, okay, why, like, what with trenches, how did that change warfare, etc., if that makes sense. So as we already talked about, these things are going to get stuck. And as you could see, it's in the mud. And again, this is like newer technology as well. So it's going to get stuck in the mud. It's going to get stuck in the trenches. All that great stuff. It's not going to be a good time. So now, this is where things are going to get a little spicier. Just a bit now. Just a bit. So the trench warfare, there's multiple attempts to break the stalemate throughout the years, whether it's tanks, whether it's gas, whether it's whatever. Okay? There becomes some desperation. And as the years go on, and again, be home by Christmas, now we're starting to go on, oh no, they've been gone for a long time. Now we're starting to get a little bit more pissed and more desperate. Whiskey and Fire won the Nobel Prize for the method that affect climate, I believe. Germany then used him to weaponize it. Yep. Twister to Fire, fun fact, armored vehicles with cannons were called tanks, and ones with machine guns were called tankettes. There you are. So, what winds up happening is this stalemate, countries are starting to get desperate. The British, they're blockading Germany. And so why is the British blockade, why is it such a problem? Why is the blockade for like ports to get into Germany such a problem? Take care, Tanya. Have a good one. Yeah, Milford, yeah, anti-tank rounds would eventually destroy them too. Absolutely. They got also much, much better. Okay, supplies, can't get goods, food, yes. So now, civilians, like in these cities, are now going to start getting impacted. People are going to start to starve. So now, Germany's like, well. We are going to start sinking the crap out of your ships. Unrestricted, nobody's off limits. We are going to start sinking every single ship. Because the U-boats that the Germans have, that was like a major advantage, right? So, now you have unrestricted submarine warfare that's going on. The British are blocking supplies from getting into the German people, who are already being told propaganda. They're already told to ration, all this great stuff, right? That's eventually going to become a problem. A lot of you also see the Lusitania. Yes, eventually this is how the US is going to get involved. The Ottoman Empire eventually joins, right? The British, and someone was mentioned this before, this is like the whole Lawrence of Arabia story, right? They're encouraging people to revolt against the Ottomans. If you want to talk about when the Ottoman Empire falls, the power vacuum and ripple effect that that's going to cause throughout Europe, yeah, you still feel it today. Now, that last one is really, really interesting, and I do want to talk about that. Really want to. J&B to fire. Black Sea raids by Ottomans just killed Russia. Also, yes, Sykes-Picot did during this war, cause we see in Palestine today with colonial Israel. Connections. Adrian to fire. Fun fact, tight end O.T. Lawrence wrote the foreword to I, Claudius. Really? I did not know that. That's a fun fact indeed. Aliyah to fire. Question, Grossi. Would these blockades be considered collective punishment? Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, Geneva. Evo with a fiver. Just got home from work. I didn't know we had class today. We did. Can somebody tell me why the colonies want to get involved? We talked about imperialism. I taught you about imperialism. Why the hell would they want to help? Holly at 20, partial tuition payment. Sorry, it's late. Appreciate you, Holly. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well, Holly. That's really good. If they get involved, their prize could be freedom. Yup. So there's a bunch of colonies that go, hey, maybe if we help them, they'll leave. Spoilers, they don't. But it's maybe. Maybe if they help, they'll go away. They won't. Yeah, it's a nice thought. So, you start to see this. And if you take a gander at where this is from, this is in the US. Now, again, this is also very important too. I will talk about the US a little bit, but you have to also remember this is taught from an AP Euro perspective. Kung Fu with a 669. I don't know how tuition works, so here's this. Nice. So, this starts going to the US. People start reading about it. So this is, again, naval blockade of Germany, winds up punishing the people of Germany. They're not able to get supplies. Not having a grand old time, right? Justin, with a fiver, saying France and Britain were taking over Ottoman land. Just make it straight lines, because... Let me check the calendar. Century of civil wars and wars. Dude, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. So, this is also, again, I have to spell this out because this is why World War I is so radically different from anything that these people in Western Europe have experienced before. Because usually when there's war, the cost, the sacrifices, the casualties are usually out in the field, right? It's on the battlefield. But now it's hitting home. And can somebody tell me what starving children will do to your morale for a war that has now lasted years? That was supposed to be a quick little war because, again, Austria-Hungary was pissed at Serbia. Remember. What is that gonna do to morale? So, that's in the trash, right? Yes, Whiskey, thank you for bringing that up. This is what's called total war. Your government, your military, your politics, your economy is all centered around war. All war. I actually didn't know this. I actually got taught this by one of my coworkers that said that there was a sausage shortage because they would use the casing to make Zeppelins. It would help make the material that would make Zeppelins. So that kind of stuff. Because you're having starvation and you're having all of this crap start to now hit the home front. So now, let me ask you a question. Okay. Kids are starving. People are not back. They were supposed to be back. They're not back. All this stuff is not going well. If you are the government of that particular country, how do you increase morale? Just do it, tourist starving people. Well, time for revolution. You will see that too. You will see that too. What do you do? Find a way to win? Sure. There we go, M. Propaganda, baby! Demetrius Whittaker. Hey, Grossi, right before Halloween, and we should remind people at this time, Kirk Cousins rents different houses in Minnesota so he can maximize the number of children he can spit on. That's accurate. Trick or treat, it's always a trick with Kirk Cousins. Always. Always, always, always. Always. So, hope you're doing well, my friend. So we talked about some of these big battles. Again, I would get more in depth if we were in class, but not too much in depth. But massive casualties. Massive, massive casualties. If you go to some of these places too, there's memorials that still exist today. So there's a great line that I always include in here. Okay? As war dragged on, the price of peace rose. Ooh. Can anybody tell me what that means? Because if you understand that, you now understand everything that's going to happen after this war. Sunk cost fallacy, I like that. What does that mean? More will die, sure. Resentment, sure. We lost all that for this. Oh, that's going to come later. Yup. Yup. Terms get harsher. Yup. Never happen again. Yeah. Not yet. Total annihilation. There you go. I like that, Gruz. We've invested so much, we have to win now. Because that's the sunk cost fallacy, right? If you are sacrificing hundreds of thousands of people, money, food, kids starving, all this stuff, everything is dedicated to the war, well, we can't accept anything else except total victory. It has to be decisive. We win, they lose. There need to be winners and losers in this war. And I need you to take a big step back. Every country is feeling this. Everyone. Some more than others. But everyone is feeling that. There has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. And that loser, oh, they're going to pay. They are going to pay. Because otherwise, what the hell was all of this for? Because at home, it is a total war effort. Everything. Everything. And this is new. This is a brand new concept. It was like, yup, people are off fighting. And again, it's been a while. People are off fighting. They'll come back. When they come back, great. No, no, no. Now everything needs to go to the war effort. Everything. The economy works for the war now. Government, war now. All of the whole population, support the troops, make things for the troops, ration, etc. You have to. Josh, if World War I led to 2, the UN and NATO are designed to prevent 3, but it's inevitable because of tribalism and nationalism. The question is when. Well, it depends also what it's going to look like. Justin Turner sounds like Perno with his pickums. Exactly. So, governments now are raising taxes to drain more money from their people because they got to fund this war effort. The draft is now being utilized. Hey, you're young? Boop. Get on in there. Go to the front line. And now you have to ration resources. You were taking home a loaf of bread a week. Now it's half a loaf. The other half, it needs to go to the front. Oof. So anyway, Tanner, hope you're having a good week, Tom. Had a job interview, so fingers crossed. Seahawks, Cowboys in prime time. Gonna have the throwbacks for the Hawks. I saw that. Sexy 90s jersey. And hell yeah. Hope the job interview went well. Let's rock, baby. Let's rock. Best of luck. So again, this is phase 2. So the war gone on through all of 1914, casualties, nobody's home, none of that stuff. And now it's deeply impacting the people who are at home. So now, and this is just like a key term that they use on the AP every now and then, this is called like war socialism, right? So now, basically, the problem is it's the expectations, right? It's the expectations. They were anticipating a short war. We're talking 6 months, maybe. We're going on years now. None of these countries are prepared to do a multi-year total war effort. They don't have a shot. Their economy didn't prepare for this. They didn't stockpile anything. All those resources they were getting. Nope. So now it's like, oh crap. And so when you have, this is where this is a big advantage for the Allies, because like the British, for example, who are getting trillions and trillions of dollars from India, they got deep pockets. So they're like, all right, like we're kind of rocking with this. Like, okay, we're more wealthy, like we're ready to go. So they were able to now provide for their people and not feel the sting as much, if that makes sense. So in addition, agriculture, and this is going to become a big, big thing, especially when we get to Russia later. This could become a big thing. Agriculture, the growth of food, that goes for the war effort now. Everything. So whatever you were bringing home, it's less now because that's got to go to the soldiers. Because again, we can't lose. Are we going to lose this war because you want to eat more bread? How selfish of you. Are you serious? Our soldiers, our troops are dying out there, fighting for you, fighting for this country. And they're going to die because you want to eat more bread? That's the kind of propaganda we're rocking with now. That's what we're rocking with. So it's like, hey, everything goes to the war. Everything. And it's not a good look. So again, this is what's going on in the battlefield. It is miserable. People are dying. You're sitting in mud, soaking wet. There are rats. You are barely making any movement. And at home, your family is starving, or is at least feeling the impact of it, and they are doing everything. And again, there is no end in sight. Countries are desperate. They try. They really, 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 really try. But nothing's breaking the stalemate. So it's going to be a war of attrition. So, Verdun. So I have not been here. it is a place that I most definitely want to go for historical reasons, just for respect and kind of just out of the history. But again, beautiful fields, right? That's what it looks like. And you're talking like so many perished, right? Yes, exactly, Himmel. Yep, I'm going to show you. So literally, there are crypts in here, and the bones of fallen soldiers are in here. So it is very sobering. It is very daunting. So Verdun happens 1916, and it is one of like the major battles. You're talking about, if I have my battle correct, I think you're talking like around like 300,000 people dead. And then more than that injured. So, again, like this is brutally horrific. Because for the most part, it's trench warfare really slow. But when battles happen, the casualties are massive. Massive. Like you're talking about you're talking about like modern day stuff, like we talk about 9/11 and like the horrific loss of life. The numbers are so insane, like they're so insanely large that you can't even fathom them. Because it's like, we can't even think that high at this point. So again, Bones of the Fallen. So if you ever go here, I have not gone. I always show this to students just to kind of like sober them up and be like, hey, like this, like the respect part, you know, this is real stuff. You know, you can't bury the bodies in no man's land. Like it is, it's horrific stuff. It's horrific. So now going forward, again, all this is happening. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people dying. Like it is horrific. And again, I want to be very, very clear. Going into this, flowers, dancing, can't wait to go to war, glorified, all this stuff. And this is happening because Austria-Hungary hates Serbia. And you're French. Josh, if I would build these memorials to teach the future never again, then we do it again. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. So, as the war drags, and I mean drags on, we're talking 1917. 3 years of total war. Technically 2, but 3 years of total war. You were supposed to be home by Christmas. You are not. You are hungry. You're rationing food. You haven't seen whoever, family members, significant others, sons, whatever, in so long, years. This puts an enormous amount of strain, pressure, stress, desperation on the home front. So, of course, their morale is going to be hot garbage. Of course it's going to be. And so this is where propaganda starts to rear its ugly head. The things that I was talking about before. We're in 3 years now. So I want you to like, for example, if you spent 3 years doing something, let's just say like learning a skill, whether it's like playing guitar or whatever. If you, and you sacrificed hanging out with people, you sacrificed money, you all this stuff, right? So a much lesser thing. If you just give up now, then what the hell was that for? And now it's like, all right, we're going to try this, but it's starting to reach its end. People are starting to reach their end. And so now, here's the good old United States. So the U.S. is going to get, again, this is taught from an AP Euro perspective, which is why it's so focused heavily on European countries and not the United States. But the U.S. is neutral. I'm using the biggest air quotes ever. It's neutral. But the British are basically getting just supplies. Like, the US is like, we obviously have a favorite here. They're like, here you go. We're going to give you a bunch of supplies and stuff. So, issues start to occur. We'll talk about the Lusitania for a hot second. But the other thing that happens, and this is why this is really, really important. Russia, again, I cannot push this even further. Russia is decimated. All the bad things we're talking about right now, Russia is like obliterated by World War I. Not only are they not ready for this, like the supply, they're sending people out to the front lines without shoes, without guns. And they're like, yeah, just pick them up from the guy who died next to you. Like, it is horrific. You're talking about millions of people. Like, Russia really suffers. And talking about people reaching their breaking point, they reach their breaking point in Russia, where they've been ruled by czars for a very long time, and you're going to have the Russian Revolution that's going to break out. And a lot of the spark that's going to come from that is because of total war. It's all these shortages of food, supplies, resources, etc. Amplifier, a good example would be picture if we were all still on COVID lockdown all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Right? So, this becomes its own disaster. And Russia winds out pulling themselves out of the war. So they pull themselves out. They just go, you know what? We can't. Can't do that. Now, again, you have a change of government that's going to happen. This is like where the story of like Anastasia comes from. Rasputin is there too, right? The Tsar, like the whole family's going to get murdered. It's horrific. But they're going to basically pull themselves out of the war because Russia's like, first of all, why are we fighting this? Second of all, it's killing all of our people. Third of all, it's basically taking all of our resources and we're all starving and we're all miserable, right? So, how this impacts Germany, and this kind of gives them a little bit of a morale boost, all of a sudden, they don't have to worry necessarily about a two-front war. Now they go, oh, so we don't got to worry about them? Cool. Let's focus on the Western Front. And that's going to start putting more pressure on the Allies, eventually the United States, etc., etc. Adrian Turret, Germans moving Lenin. Moving Lenin? What do you mean moving him? What do you mean? What do you mean? So, are you talking about like transporting him or? So, oh yes, is that what you mean? Like when they were transporting him? I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Yes, so basically Germany would just be like, here you go, Lenin, go into Russia now. The Russian Revolution is pretty horrific. The Tsar, the whole family winds up getting killed. And I don't remember if it's in this particular I think it might be. We might jump more into the Russian Revolution, or it might just be a different lesson. But basically, the Tsar, who was never challenged before, all of a sudden starts to get challenged. The Rasputin thing, it's a big problem with the oligarchy. They're not happy with it. And basically, Nicholas is also seen as like a complete imbecile and like super duper weak as well. Like there's a scene like he goes out to like the front line. He's like, rah, rah, troops. And the troops like do not care about him in any way, shape, or form. We'll get there though. We'll get there. So let's talk about the good old US of A. So why did the United States decide to actually jump into this? Well, of course, France and Britain, which is also ironic too if you know their history with one another. They are just more trading partners with them. They're sympathetic towards their cause. And then, of course, the Lusitania, right? The Lusitania, which is taught in every single American history class of like, here you go, this is why. There's unrestricted submarine warfare. The Germans are like, okay, we're so sorry, we won't do that ever again. And the US is like, okay, don't do it. And the Germans get super duper desperate as time goes on, and they just do it again. And so, this is when it's going to start to cause some problems. But again, you can make an argument about the US wanting to get involved in the war, and all that great stuff anyway. But the Zimmerman telegram is always interesting too. there's lots of rumors about the Zimmerman telegram, but basically Germany like writing to Mexico like, hey, you know, like, you help us, United States, like, we'll give you territory and stuff. Regardless, this is what I actually focus on, because this is very, 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 very important. Okay. Culture tour. Oh, got a history lesson. Woodrow Wilson. This is when you boo. This is like when Roger Goodell comes up during the draft. You boo. Whenever you see Woodrow Wilson, you just boo. Just boo. It is the war to end war. Can anybody tell me what that means? Great job booing. You're doing excellent job, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Woodrow Wilson sucks. Woodrow Wilson sucks forever and always. Let's see. Daniel with a tenor just joined the live. Thought as a football channel, what does that have to do with the Packers? We're getting to it. This is how Brett Favre wound up getting traded from the Falcons all the way to the Packers. So, Volunteer tour. If Lenin had good health till 1945, World War II thoughts. That's actually fascinating. I'm actually not interested about like World War II. I'm interested in that interwar period and like what kind of happens if Lenin is just like healthy and good. I'm more curious of like how that impacts the Russian people. They'll still get involved with the war, I think, but I mean, maybe Lenin was like, no, we're not gonna do it. Exactly. SJ. Yes, exactly. Exactly. If we do this, if the United States gets involved in World War I, which it wasn't called World War I, the Great War, the war to end all wars. This is so horrific. Millions of people dead. Millions of people maimed. The most horrific things that you can think of. Wilson goes, we get involved and we end this thing, there will never be war again. Because no one is gonna have the audacity or just want to ever do this again. So we get involved, we basically save the world. And Woodrow Wilson was enough of a douche to actually believe that. But I want to tell you about that because, again, this is where post-World War I stuff comes in. Well, now, if you're like a young person and maybe you're talking about like the military, well, there's no more wars to fight. It's done. So what do we do? Josh Ventura, the only war to end war ends in extinction. Zach gets through. The only reason I joined is because of a pet project. There you go. There you go. So Lusitania, of course, that is also a major problem. The Germans sink it. That becomes an issue. And then they're like, hey, stop doing that. And they go, no, we're not. Applesauce fired during this whole time. Hitler is a corporal fighting alongside the Germans. Yep. Okay. Now, do we want to have a really difficult conversation? And it's about the United States, too. It's about the United States. What is one of the major reasons why women get the right to vote? Does anyone know one of like the prevailing reasons why women get the right to vote? Because there's no men. We'll talk about that. Workforce. Sure. And good old women's suffrage movement. Prohibition. All right. So, let me ask this in a couple different ways. So, you all know, again, if you got an American education, you probably learned this at some point, that when men went off to fight, right, United States, women stepped up. And they're like, hey, we're going to go into offices. We're going in those heavy industry jobs. It's great. It's wonderful. Now, right? What's going to happen to women when the men come back? Stay tuned. SJ Fire, is it true or myth that teenager Hitler was spared by a British soldier who didn't want to kill a kid? I have not seen anything like reputable to support that. I have not. Out of the workforce, right? So while men are away, I'm talking about the United States specifically right this second. While men are away, women take over the workforce, especially the factory work, heavy industry, stuff like that. And it's this really like cool moment for a hot second where it's like, damn, like, all right, let's go. This happens in Europe, and this also will happen in the United States. When men come back, women are basically sent back to the jobs that they had, right? Does that help in their argument to gain the right to vote? 1,000,000%. I will never argue against that. Does the women's suffrage movement, does that help? Absolutely. 1,000,000%. However, one of the major reasons why eventually the United States, but also in some European countries, women are gonna get the right to vote is because there is a thought that women, being more delicate, I'm using this, talking in their terms, delicate, have a little bit more empathy. And because they have that, you know, those things that are called feelings, they will not vote for men who will get them into another war. So the thought is that if you get women to vote, women are not going to put a man in charge. Oh, God forbid, a woman in charge. Ooh. They're not going to put men in charge. They're not going to vote for men to be in charge that are going to go and cause another war. Because at the end of World War I, that is the worst thing that could happen. And women who have seen husbands, sons, brothers die, they go, well, because the ladies have all those lady feelings, if we allow them to vote, maybe that'll be a good check against men who are war hawks that want to go and start wars. So, one of the major reasons why women get the right to vote is because of sexism. 100%. Because it's the idea that even though they held down those jobs, and they did a kick-ass job too, held down those jobs, nope. But maybe because they're so delicate, they won't vote for a person who's going to send us into the same position again. That's fun. That's super fun. Super duper 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 fun. All right. Oh, yeah, we rocking. We rocking. Gold Zimmerman Telegram. Oh, life. No, I'm not underselling that at all. I'm talking about from a powerful men perspective of why they are even entertaining allowing women to vote. It's not underselling that at all. The suffrage movement, especially when I taught US, I spend so much time on that. And you're talking years and years and years of pushing and pushing and pushing. And that's why I said, that makes a huge difference. That makes a huge difference. There is also an underlying sentiment of the people who are in power, who are men, that go, hey, we can maybe allow women to vote because they won't lead us into another war. That is a very prevailing thought at the time. And so, yeah, not trying to undersell that at all, because that is 100%. Because if that pressure is also not on there and those results aren't there, it might not happen. But one of the main reasons why it's even considered is because they're trying to prevent another war, which, of course, is also rooted in, terribleness as well. So, that's what we're talking about here. So, Himmel, we're not talking about, but, bro, look who you're talking about. Denmark, Norway, Sweden. Yeah, my friend, that's why we're not talking about them. We're talking about, directly impact World War I. We're talking about, England, too, and the United States. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. So, again, I'm sorry, I'll move this real quick here. So, here, right, Zimmerman Telegram basically saying, hey, Mexico, we'll give you a whole bunch of land if you wind up helping us. and that's gonna like wind up, straw broke the camel's back, etc. C5 with a tenor, which is very strange given that most women support their families and tend to have generations of children after this who join the military in support of the country. You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. Oh, Himmel, you know what you were doing. Yeah, because those countries, I don't know, are progressive as hell and are like, yeah, we don't need this crap. Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it. So, let's look at some propaganda. Derek! Appreciate you. Thanks for gifted 5 memberships. Let's take a gander. Let's take a gander. Giggity tour. Oh, yeah. Woodrow, the sexism to end all sexism. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. All right. So what do we see here? What do we see here? I love looking at old propaganda. It's fascinating. I love it. I love it. So this one on the left, right? Exactly what we were talking about here. We are saving you, save food. Right? Yeah, it's why they stored the parking ticket recovery fund. Dills 154. Let's go, EA! Appreciate you. Let's go. Well-fed soldiers will win the war. So what is this saying in the non-kind terms? Hey, fatty, stop eating. Because if you stop eating, we'll win the war. So eat less. So yeah. Stop eating. Because if you do, Now, it gets worse. It gets worse. Be honest with yourself. Be certain that your so-called reason is not a selfish excuse. Robert Firestone, we just need to require women to register for the draft progress. This is like, whew. Hey, are you just being selfish? Saying that you can't and go and fight for your country? Are you just being a piece of garbage? Oh, so you know what? Yeah, you're only 17. Get out there. You got to enlist. Come on now. Don't be selfish. Here we go. Help Uncle Sam stamp out the Kaiser. Wilhelm II hanging out down there. What are we doing? Oh, what's that boot? Third Liberty Loan. Buy bonds. Buy government bonds. Because if you buy government bonds, then you're going to help us win the war. Also, if you stop eating so much, fatty, we're also going to win the war. Also, don't be a lazy piece of garbage and make sure you enlist as well. And now, we got this one, which is one of the most famous ones that you ever seen, right? I want you. Why is this so effective? Why is this one of the most effective pieces of American propaganda in American history? Why is it? Oh, guilt trips are great. Guilt trips are great. Points to the individual, right? Me? Oh? And I also, I had my students too, because if we were doing this lecture for a while, again, this is broke up into multiple classes. They walk, the eyes follow you. So if you put that up, and this is a simple thing. This is also where, art comes into play, and this is, really interesting to me. If you put this up, in a shop window or something, and you walk past it, if you walk sideways, right now, if you walk past your monitor or your phone, you keep it here, the eyes follow you. So you could be walking past and you're looking, those eyes are dead on you. Dead on you. We want you. You. Personal accountability? Woo! All right. That's why they say, like, for example, if there's ever like a medical emergency, you don't just scream like, call the cops. You point to an individual person and go, call the cops. Because it's that like, hey, you're the one who needs to do this. Mm-hmm. Spooky season indeed. Oh, here we go. Also censored. Pervs. Let's look at this. Let's look at the one on the left first. Let's look at the one on the left first. You want to talk about guilt trips? You want to talk about guilt trips? So, listen. Yeah, this is a very famous one on the right. Move that down too. Will you fight now? Will you go to war now? Right? Saboteur, join war, fat boy. Join war. Yep, you putty cat. Will you fight now, or are you going to wait for this? What is this? Somebody tell me. World War I lesson. Oh, World War I lesson. What is happening here? Death? Where are they? It is bad. Yep. Yep. Execution? Sure. In the homeland. Are these soldiers? This person a soldier, this person a soldier, right? This is basically saying either you come and fight now, or there are going to be enemy troops coming into your homes and killing you. So, you gonna do it now? Or are you gonna wait for that? Then, destroy this mad brute, supposed to represent Germany, right? You have the lady, the damsel in distress. Always a very popular image that is used, right? Coming to American soil, you look at Europe, which is destroyed in the background, right? Enlist U.S. Army. Because these two, exact same message. Exact same message. Exact same one. Enlist now, or they're coming to kill you. Enlist now, or they're coming to kill you. Propaganda. Okay. I'm going to pee real quick. I'm going to pee for the D. Look at the one on the left. It is one of my personal favorite of all time. Look at the one on the left. La, 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 la. We peed for the D. All right. Here we go. So, one on the left, I love it. Applesauce Fry, the uncensored tatas are calling me to fight. Yes. So on the left, it's nice in the... I love this one so much. It really is like one of my favorite pieces of propaganda. Yeah, it's fun in the surf, but what about the men in the trenches? Rachel, when a fire is sent for the Packers puzzle toy for your fur kids. Hey! Got to include a note. Hope they enjoy. Also wish you had been on Drunk History. Rachel, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the gift. Thomas for the tenor got back from a Halloween barn bash. Ooh, all right. With such a blast, got third place as Jordan Love costume. There you go. There you go. So, this is like, you, this guy too, just a surfer dude. It's like, yeah, it might be really nice hanging out in the ocean, but do you know about the men in the trenches who are dying? You should go help, and you shouldn't have fun either. Oh, okay. So there you go. And then, the one on the right, your country's call. Isn't this worth fighting for? What is being shown here? It's the Shire. Or it's that Windows PC background. It's one or the other. It's one or the other. Exactly. You're guilty now for enjoying yourself. Home! This is home! Oh, is that not worth fighting for? Coward. It's fun times. Fun times. So. On real quick, let me grab a fresh glass so we can pour a fresh spotted cow. Hi, Daphne. Hi, Nabula. I must go teach the people, Nabula. All right. So, propaganda works for like a good little while. But you also have to realize, too, except for the Americans, obviously, this war has been going on for like 3 years now. So it only lasts for so long. For so long. So it raises morale a little bit. But they can't just rely, by the way, we're rousing. We can't just rely on propaganda. C5 Fire, what do I get you need to think about your car's extended warranty for the left one? It's accurate. You're not wrong. Not wrong. So, what else does the government do? And again, the reason we teach about this is because this is where connections are made, because you see the stuff and tactics that governments use in World War I that are directly going to be amplified and used even more in World War II. Twisted Fire, my favorite one is the two kids ask their fire, what did you do in the Great War? Yep. What will you tell them? That you were a coward and stayed home and ate bread? How dare you? By the way, too, the Americans, yeah, Lusitania, absolutely, Zimmerman, 100%. Because the whole thing, Austria-Hungary is pissed off at Serbia. Again, that's the whole point, right? So, what else does the government do? Well, we gotta censor the press. Why do we gotta censor the press? Why do we have to censor the press? Did you surf? How dare you? How dare you? Why do we gotta censor the press? Why can't we have that free fun, that free fun press that we've always had? Trenchers are awful. Yep. Loose lips sink ships! There you go. Control the narrative. Goes against nationalism. Kung tour, I just tell him I was surfing. It's true. Because if the press says anything different of it's not going well, you're losing, well then people are going to be like, well then what the hell are we doing and why are we fighting? Which all the way, by the way, is like already there. But I need you to like take a step back. Take a step back. Because you can understand the interwar period just from this, from what we've talked about. Let's take Germany. Wilhelm II, we are the best. Amazing military. Our people are the best. We are number one. This war is going to be quick. Go to war. It's not quick. Home front sucks. Battlefield sucks. But every single time a piece of information comes out about the war, do you think it's going to be positive or negative that is going to be told to the public? Do you think the information that is going to reach the public is going to be positive, we're doing great, or we're sucking ass? It's got to be positive. So I want you to take a step back for a hot second. You are a regular person in Germany. You've been told you're the best. Everyone's going to be home by Christmas. They're not. So yeah, you're going to stop eating a little bit. You're going to have to start giving up a bunch of stuff. But everything that you are hearing, every piece of information that you are hearing, we're doing well. We need more stuff, though. We're doing well. Our troops are doing well. Why? Because we are the best. And if you say otherwise, if you start saying we shouldn't have been in the war, treason. Straight to jail. Straight to jail. Straight to jail. Josh, fire problem today is who is the press? Anyone with a blog, podcast, X account, etc. is the press. Uso Tour, war is like being a Bears fan after preseason ends. So now, it's not only do they not want to hear it, but the governments are making sure that's all they hear. And anybody who speaks out against them, you hate our country, jail, gone, bye, boo-boo, treason. So now, it's like, nope, because we need more people to fight. We need people to say, yes, son, go help the country. Because we're doing so well. We're making great strides here. And what happens if you lose? And you're that random German person. You lose. Wait, how did we lose? We were the best. I was told we were the best. All the reports saying all good things. Oh, and then hyperinflation. Oh, and then the Great Depression. Oh, yeah, and before that, too, you're also blamed for the war. Not a fun time. So, this is what we were talking about women before, too, right? Women are working in war industries, definitely, especially in the U.S., too. They're also taking over factory jobs, heavy industry, nurses, of course, 100%. That starts with Florence Nightingale on the Crimean War. And eventually, that is going to help lead to women's suffrage, right? So this massive movement that is going to occur, which makes sense because women are going to go into these jobs, and when men get back and they're like, okay, leave, and women are like, well, wait, are we just going to pretend that didn't happen when we kind of just saved your ass? And then, there you go. Notorious with a 3-er saying, treason schmeason, can't catch me, big man. Yep. Stabbed in the back. There you go, Justin. Stabbed in the back. So, women in the workforce, and they hold it down. But again, this is also like why I'm telling you about the thoughts about women from men who are in control and kind of a leading sentiment amongst men in this time period. It was, okay, thanks. Bye now. Wait, what? We just proved that we could do this job. We did a kick-ass job doing it. Oh yeah, no, bye-bye. Be a secretary, go work in department stores, teacher, whatever. Ooh, that's gonna lead to that. And then, don't know about that one. Don't know about that one. So, right, you have nurses as well, women in industry. Bro, I love this piece of propaganda too. Because propaganda was not just targeted at men to get them to enlist. No, it was not. Yeah, Rosie the Riveter is World War II. That's World War II. Because, again, they do it again! They do it again! Women do it again. So, this one on the right is, of course I can! I'm patriotic as can be, and ration points won't worry me. Because again, it's not just targeted towards men. It's got to go, hey, women, we got to ration too. We got to do this too. No, they won't worry me because I'm supporting the troops. I'm supporting the country. Got to do that. Got to do that. Okay. So, I'm going to give you like a 60-second break. Because we're going to shift a tiny bit right now. We're going to shift just a little bit. I'm doing my part. Here is a gato. It's Nabula. It's a cat break. It's a cat break. It's a cat break. It's a cat. Cat's gone. That's it. What slide number are we on? That's a great question. I don't even know. Hold on. Oh, let's see. No, stop it. Oh, boy. We're on 57. We're on. There's a lot of pictures left. There are a lot of pictures left. But yeah, we're on 57. We gotta get through the Russian Revolution. We do. Sorry, we're almost there. We're almost there. Yeah, there's a lot of pictures and charts left and all that great stuff. I'm also kind of going relatively quickly through it too. It's almost midnight. Listen, I'm rocking if y'all are still rocking. We got 700 people in here. Like, I'm rocking if we're still rocking. Man, we went 4 hours and 17 minutes. Like, I'm telling you, we'll rock. We'll rock. We'll rock. You're good, we're good. Tom, more vitamins? Tom, more vitamins. I saw it in the chat. Where? Nowhere? Okay. Ugh, halftime break. Stretching it out. Stretching it out. Whew. Rocco at a tour says, I'm rocking. Twister to Fire, my great-grandmother used to tell me about how her mother would make dresses out of used feed sacks. Yup. Yup. C5 to Fire, I'd pay you to do the history of the Packers sports in Wisconsin. That'd be a lot of fun, actually. I would be. Demo tour, enjoying this way too much. Milford, love the class, thanks. I appreciate you. Listen, again, like, you know, it's an AP Euro class. I haven't taught in a hot second, but, you know, this is how I teach. Whiskey with a Fire, do you believe survivor's guilt of those back home led to willful ignorance? That's an amazing question. We kind of talked about that with the post-World War I stuff. I don't know if it goes with willful ignorance, but I think it goes to desperation and putting trust and faith in people that you necessarily wouldn't have before. Because all the stuff we're talking about, I want to make this clear too, and I talked about this, the post-World War I stuff. This stuff is complicated, right? Like, it's a lot of history that I'm throwing at you right now, especially in one session, but it's a lot of history. And if you were to sit someone down, like a random person, a civilian, like in Germany or France or whatever, and you explained all this to them in vivid detail, just point by, first of all, ain't nobody got time for that. And again, if you are a German person during this time, you're the best, your government's telling you the best, you're doing all these things, you're rationing, you're doing all this stuff, right? Son's gone off to war, whatever. The point that I'm trying to make is that once all of that comes crashing down on them, hyperinflation, Great Depression, all this stuff, though nobody wants to hear those long-winded arguments anymore. No one wants to hear how complicated it is. They want results. And this one random dude, this happens in a bunch of countries, this ain't just Germany, one dude goes, I can fix this. But only I can. I can do it. I can fix this. So, I understand the willful ignorance comment. And I think in part, yes. But I think it comes out of a place of desperation. David Atura, just joined. You're up late. Oh, we teach in history. We rocking. We rocking. All right. We ready? Let's talk about Russian Revolution. Let's talk about the Russian Revolution. Okay. So, I talked to you about all the terrible things going on the home front, but hold on. You know what? No. Nope. Time out. There's a major thing that I forgot. Cultifier, do you do a video on the Balkans? Because I've been using YouTube videos to fill in. So that's usually not on the AP exam, but no, I have students like do stuff on their own time, and we also talk about the Balkans way before this too, so it's more of a different lesson. So yeah, I missed a major thing, which is very, very important. Because whenever I teach, I always like to jump to connections first, because this is stuff that they can tie in their thematic essays and all that great stuff. Here's the cha-cha. Here's the cha-cha. As bad as things are on the home front, the rations, the total war effort, war socialism, all of this stuff, the war never really reaches the home front in the way that it does in World War II. Because the fighting, the actual fighting, like just like bang, bang, that is happening on the battlefield. World War II changes the game, because now it's not like we're just, doing rations or anything like that. No, we're being bombed. Now we're being actively killed. And that is a really, really important point and important difference, because life on the home front is not fun in World War I. Again, starvation, lack of medicine, supplies, rations, whole nine. But in World War II, you have all of that. And then you have, oh crap, they're dropping bombs on us. They're bombing our cities and our homes. So that is a major, major difference that sets World War II kind of apart from World War I. Because again, the fighting, not the effects of fighting, but the fighting is usually contained to the battlefield. Here at home, they're fighting a different battle, right? An economic battle, they're fighting a social battle, 100%. But it's different in World War II. And it's going to lead to more casualties, etc. So just wanted to put that up. All right, let's talk about the Russian Revolution here. So all the things I mentioned that are happening to Western European countries, they're also happening in Russia, but it's like significantly worse. As I mentioned before, like Russia is already going through some issues. They're not really unified, but they are so unprepared for World War I because they're a bit behind too. Culture tour. Oh yeah, plane's a complete game changer. Absolutely. So this is happening 3 years, technically not a full 3 years, but 3 years into World War I. Russia gets involved. They do not have the supplies. Like I said, they're sending like kids out the front lines without boots, without jackets, without guns, and they're told, pick it up from whoever's dead around you and keep fighting. It decimates them. Millions of people dead, resources, money. Nicholas II is so weak. He's so ineffective. And so all of this is going to be catastrophic for Russia. And it just gets to a boiling point where they can't contain it. Because as we're talking about in Germany, France, even the United States, everything like that, the propaganda that's coming out and is like, hey, stay calm, like, we're doing really well, what have you, not really happening in Russia. And that silencing is not really going on either. And if it is, it's not really being effective. And so civilians start legit just saying, bro, like, no, like, this is not cool. They say that, end quote, too. Russian in 1917, bro, this is not cool. You can quote me on that. They're legit going, the government is weak as hell. Nicholas II is on the front line doing nothing. And so his wife is also at home ruling, and they're like, and then Rasputin's involved too, and it's like, no, the people pretty much have enough. Hollywood tour, underdeveloped Russia plus largest army. Yep. Yeah, bro, not cool. Straight up not having a good time. So protests start to break out in Russia. Okay? And this is where it gets real interesting, that the army, which is supposed to be supporting the czar and like keeping the government, they go, no, we're not putting them down. We're not doing it. And so Nicholas he has to abdicate. He's got to leave. But Busovic tour, actually, Tom, it was Brozovic. Not cool. Thank you. Appreciate you. So the army basically turns against him too and is like, yeah, we're not doing this. So this is when you are going to have a revolution. And I want to make this very clear too, because also with Russia too, they're in AP Euro. I would love to focus on Russia more because their history is fascinating. It's complicated as hell, but it is so fascinating. At this point, there's ideologies that are fighting against the government as well. Communism, real popular too, right? And the communists are also going to be in Germany. Like, this ain't just going to be a Russian thing. And it gets to a point that the Tsar is going to step down. He's going to abdicate, but that is not going to save his family. So that's his family. This is where Anastasia comes from, if you've ever seen the movie or the play. Notorious Women 8 goes to show you what can happen in 20-odd years when Russia did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, 100% correct. I mean, it is just years and years of, like, frustration. His entire family, including himself, they are murdered. Brutally, too. It is bad. The kids are murdered. Because it's basically like, we can't have this. Spencer Turner, do we get college credit for this time? Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, no. They kill the Romanovs in, like, horrific, disturbing ways. Because they are also terrified that if they stay alive, they're going to have some kind of power and they're going to fight back. So, yeah, they killed everything. Pets, it's legitimately horrific. It is. You have Nicholas on the front lines trying to do stuff. The guy is just, like, not a good leader. And this happens, right? We've seen this happen in just about every single empire that has existed on this planet. There comes a time where there's a stretch of not great leaders. Nicholas II is not a great leader. He's not enthusiastic. He's not, like, well-educated. He's not a guy who's going to, like, rah-rah the troops on the front line who are dying, who don't have jackets, who don't have guns, who don't have boots. It's not happening. So, it's not going to work out well for them. And on top of that, this is where Rasputin comes in, too. Rasputin's, obviously, I talked about it on a previous stream. He gets in with the royal family, and the nobles, like the oligarchs, absolutely despise this. They hate it. Because it's like, who is this random dude? Especially when Nicholas is out in the front line. Like, all of this stuff, right? All on the front line, and now, like, there's this random guy who's hanging out with the Tsar's wife, who's also ruling. Is he ruling? Oligarchs hate him. Cannot stand him. Right? Sam Matura, Tsar Nick doing suit poses with pics of randos. There you go. Oh, they need that stare. Eventually, by the way, so eventually he is going to get murdered. It's an insane story. They talk about poisoning him with cake. They shoot him. They stab him. They throw him in a river. Whole 9 yards. But at the end of the day, Russia winds up getting a new government. There's a provisional government that is set up in the summer of 1917. And yeah, it's a pretty big change. But this doesn't just, like, come easily. There is a full-blown civil war within Russia. And so I just want to kind of, like, explain this for you. If you're in Russia, right, you got involved in World War I, it is catastrophic for them. They have a full-blown revolution, they overthrow the government, and then they have another civil war for 3 years. For 3 years. Russia is devastated by World War I. World War, which they're ill-equipped for. Revolution, Civil War. And it's the Red Army versus the White Army. And it is... it's a disaster. It is a disaster. So here come the Bolsheviks. So they set up a very, very weak, it sucks. This provisional government, which is super weak, it really doesn't have a lot of power. It becomes a huge failure. And they're basically trying to keep their power, but they are constantly challenged. So they're challenged by the Mensheviks, who are a little bit more moderate, and there's Bolsheviks, who are communists, who are like, yeah, we don't really like this either, right? The Bolsheviks are led by a guy named Vladimir Lenin. Johnny with a fiver. Nicholas was George W. Bush without his own Dick Cheney. Yep, you know what? That's pretty damn, yeah. I'd say that's a pretty fair comparison. I would say so. So, in the summer of 1917, this new government gets set up. They're super duper weak. And they make the decision to stay in World War I. All caps. Huge failure. SJ Fire, I went straight up not having a good time because Austria-Hungary was feeling at this point irked adjacent towards Serbia. Yeah, again, that's a great point again, SJ, because you can't bring it up more. This happens because a guy gets shot and Austria-Hungary is like, yo, Serbia, we kind of low-key hate you. And now millions of people are dead. So they decide to stay in the war. Shocker, this sucks for them. And so, in October of 1917, they go, hey, this ain't working anymore. That government gets taken over. And the Bolsheviks and Lenin wind up taking over Russia. Woof. So this is why this is like catastrophic. Of course, you have Lenin. And Lenin is like super easy for people to accept. It's like, yeah, bro, like we're gonna pull out of this war. We're gonna get out. And I'm gonna promise you 3 damn things. I'm gonna give you bread, I'm gonna give you land, and I'm gonna give you peace. Sounds good to me, since the last few years have sucked. And so you're gonna give me food, you're gonna give me land to grow food and live on, and we're gonna get out of the war? Okay. All right. Peasants, all about it. Land, okay. Factories, again, communists too. Those go to the workers now. Women are even going to get several civil rights as well. And remember, if you go on back to where we were, this is what's going to pull Russia out of World War I. So this is important because now Russia's like, okay, we got our own stuff to do. They make a deal with Germany. They're like, legit. Germany goes, cool, we don't have to fight a 2-front war anymore. Now we can focus on the Western Front and have a nice day. Fish with a fire. What I love about history is how each event is like a domino after Franco-Prussian War, World War I, II, the Cold War. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So, Lenin, super popular. Super popular. However, they use this thing called war communism, which basically means like the government, they nationalize things like industry, agriculture, the government, and they basically open it up and they go, hey, the government's going to take over all this stuff, right? Because it's war communism. Also, there's the Cheka, who are going to start to come off during this part. That's the secret police. That is going to go through some interesting evolutions throughout its time period. You have thousands of people who are executed that stand against them. The royal family, of course, is included by this. They are brutally, brutally murdered. Agent with a fire. Nestor, yes, exactly. And Lenin, like, becomes this figure that is like, oh, damn. Like, we're at least out of the war. So, like, that's already a huge positive. Cults with fire, can you clip your previous lessons so I can watch? They're on a Q&A. I mean, I think the timestamps are in them. There was one last Friday, and then there was one about a month and a half ago, I think. On there. So, good old war communism in the summer of 1918, right? Bruce, yeah, and you saw some of that in the French Revolution too, about women actually revolting. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So basically, privatization of trade, business was kind of like, nay, nay. Peasants were like, hey, you got to hand over like everything that you grow except for what you need. Because again, it's war communism, just like you saw war socialism, but it takes a little bit of a different form. Starts going to the government. Again, this is going to have lasting ramifications that would be taught in other lessons. But yeah. SJ, Lenin has an enormous cult of personality that the idea of Lenin vastly outgrew the person that was Lenin. Also, most of his ideas were twisted to Stalin's benefit. That is 1,000,000,000% correct. Yes. Lenin has such a cult of personality, and we'll talk about that too if I teach World War II and like the interwar period leading up to World War II. Stalin literally just like takes the work of Lenin and is like, yeah, sure, I'm a Lenin guy, and then just does everything for Stalin, for himself. And it's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. So again, Russian Civil War, you got the Reds versus the Whites. And again, this goes on for a long ass time. And they're just got out of World War I. So this is going on. They're fighting between themselves as well. You have the Cheka, and talk about cult of personality. Again, like, oh yeah, Lenin is... So that's the funniest thing too. Stalin frames it like Lenin and him were like the bestest of friends. And that is not the case at all. Not the case at all. So, I think, so, AV, that's a good question. When we go the workers, meaning that the workers are going to kind of like take over the industry, but the rewards are not going to go to a single person who just owns the company. A lot of times during like war communism, it would go to the government, but like the workers would be more getting more for themselves rather than all the profit just going to one person. That's what they're trying to talk about here. So, and of course, the royal family, right? Again, this is the story of Anastasia comes from, etc. Lenin has such a cult of personality. This is Lenin's body. Winds up getting put on display, and it is there for years. Years. So this is because Stalin basically twists it, and again, this is something to learn like later down the line, but Stalin twists it to be like, yeah, I'm basically Lenin 2.0, which he is not, by the way. But he makes it seem like that, and like people like go and they visit Lenin and all this stuff until it doesn't work for Stalin anymore. But then you talk about that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So it's a time. So like, again, this is, I rushed through the Russian Revolution real quick. I would spend a lot more time on this, but basically, the too long didn't read version. The royal family's gone, so there's no more czar, right? You're going to have this kind of government that's going to be set up that really hasn't been seen in Western or in Europe before. The Bolsheviks, they eventually win the Civil War. Lenin takes control. They have all this crap happen to them. The thing is, by the time they're all done, and this is really, really, really important. By the time they're all done, Civil War is done. World War I is done. Lenin dies very shortly thereafter in 1924. And so there's kind of like this overthrow of the government. There's a civil war that's happening. It's all done. And now it's like, all right, time for like the new day. And then Lenin dies. And then Stalin is going to come in and is going to take advantage of all of that. Josh fired Lenin Trump bombastic personality to convince the masses to support him, even though in no way prepared to. Dude, it's just, and again, you'll see comparisons later. It's just more of like he had the trust of the people, and it's also desperation of like, hey, whatever's happening right now is not working. Is not working. And again, Stalin is going to eventually take control, and it is going to be bad. Bad. And if Lenin would have made Trotsky his clear successor or taken steps to prevent Stalin from taking power, how would Russian history have been different? Oh, it would have been radically different. If Trotsky actually took over, I mean, that's the thing. It would have been a long road to do that because Stalin, like, made sure. But If he actually took over, I don't even know what it would have turned into. It would definitely be more like legitimate communist, I would think, and less of like totalitarianism, which is kind of what Stalin set up. And yeah, I don't even know if they get involved in like World War II. Yeah, it'd be really, really interesting to see, because then you have that Stalin-Hitler feud also. Booster, if I share a picture of the books I mentioned last week on the Discord, oh, of course. Fishmaster comment about dominoes remind me of them. Hell yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, that's going on there, right? So Russia, and again, we'll get back to that at some point if we wind up teaching afterwards. We'll rock with that. But now let's kind of fast forward to the end of this. And like, I know this is a very long lesson, but it's also the point that this goes on for years. It is exhausting. It is catastrophic for every country that's involved with it. And by the time this is going to be done, so many dead, so many lives lost, maimed, economies crumbled, and it's like, oh my God, we need somebody to blame here. So, Russia gets out of the war, because we talked about the Russian Revolution, and Germany goes, we're all going the Western Front, because now we don't have to fight that two-front war anymore. So now we go and fight. Americans arrive. They are also fresh because they haven't been fighting for the past few years. And eventually, again, we're skipping a couple details here, but eventually what happens is Wilhelm, it's William there, but it's Wilhelm in German, he abdicates, and eventually a provisional government, just like the one that was set up in Russia, not obviously the same, but provisional government set up, and they call for an armistice. Now, what is an armistice? It is a ceasefire. Joshua Tour, November 11th, Veterans Day for a reason. It's a ceasefire. Can anybody tell me who is the winner or loser in a ceasefire? Can anybody tell me? Nobody. Nobody. But what did I tell you? What did I tell you? As war dragged on, that cost of peace higher. So, exactly, Alex. Exactly. So, on 11/11/1918, at 11 a.m., World War I, just like that. Done. Done. So, let's take stock of what happened here. Austria-Hungary really pissed at Serbia. 1914. Over 4 years later, the war ends. Millions of people are dead. Economies ruined. Decimated. Decimated. And now, just like that, it's done. It's done. You're French. You're fighting in this war because Austria-Hungary is pissed at Serbia? What? Oh yeah, and the Spanish flu is gonna come and kill millions of people too. Yeah, that little add-on. Black Dog and the Fire Rangers win game 1. There you go. Spillwood Tour. Oh yeah, we having a history lesson. We are having a history lesson. So, around 9 million soldiers are dead. I'll show you the breakdown. 9 million soldiers are dead. About a little over, I think, 20 million are wounded. Variety of ways. And now society also needs to find out a way to take care of these people. But you're shell-shocked. A lot of them are going to be thrown into mental housing facilities that are not going to be equipped for that at all. Alex O'Toole, yes, see if better keep an eye out. Better keep an eye out. It devastates them. And there's a line that I like to use when I talk about the end of World War I, that basically the fabric of European society is torn apart. Does anybody know what I mean by that? Because that's like a really heavy sentence. And by the way, the new government too, and this is kind of an important point too, the provisional government asks for this armistice, which is also going to be taken as a sign of weakness. Will change forever. Yep. So I like that vitamin. Social contract, ripped up. I like that a lot. Gone. Old order, gone. And so again, you start to see why art, music, fashion, lifestyle changes post World War I. Because, Chris, that's the great question. How do you go back to normal? You just go home the next day? I watched all my friends die. I just go home the next day. I guess I go back to work. Oh, also, like, my country's, like, destroyed. Also, millions of people are dead. What do you do with that? Yugi to fire. Isn't it true that there was a last-ditch effort from Germany? Don't know about other countries to blitz the enemies for the 11 AA time for the boundaries. Yeah, so there's actually examples of that. There are examples of that, and they have, like, people like the last person who died in World War I, like, rushing the trench, yeah, and gets, like, shot before 11 a.m. Yeah. Yep. Oh, actually, Ottoman Empire, gone. And this is where you're gonna start to see lots of problems occur, because now it's attempting to pick up the pieces. And we've been talking a lot about, like, societal changes, social changes, cultural changes. But how the hell do you go back to work? How the hell does an economy attempt to recover from years of this? 9 million dead, 22 million injured, whether that is shell shock, whether it is that loss of limbs. Billions of dollars spent because it's total war, right? Austria-Hungary gets a new government. Germany gets a new government. Russia gets a new government. Uh-oh. She did it to her. Oh, and I can't hear her walk anymore. Yeah. Right? Ottoman Empire, also gone. Turkey, wind up becoming its own independent thing. So, how the hell do you pick up the pieces? Well, let's get Woodrow Wilson in here. Because don't worry, Woodrow Wilson is gonna save the day. Before the tour, there were towns that only had 1 or 2 boys return. Yup! But guys, it's fine. It's fine. Listen. 9 million people died. Sure. 22 million people wounded. Sure. Economies are going to be crashed forever. Sure. But Woodrow Wilson from the United States of America is going to walk in and go, hey, guys. I know we joined this whole thing kind of late. Oh, and by the way, like, yeah, we lost people. But, like, we came in kind of late. Also, you never invaded us. Our lands are fine. Like, our economy is actually rocking right now. We got this. Exactly, Alex. Exactly. We got this. It's fine. I have 14 points that are going to save Europe, and it's going to create peace without anybody winning. Nobody's gonna win. No. The other leaders make fun of Woodrow Wilson because he's an idiot. Because he walks in to a culture, political climate, all the above, that he does not understand. And goes, here you go, guys. Here's 14 ways that we're going to solve all these problems. Cool. The thing is, and the problem is, all the other European nations, nay, 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 nay. They want their piece of flesh because they look at this and go, we spent billions of dollars. There's millions of people dead. There's millions of people wounded. Someone's going to lose here because as the war dragged on, the cost of peace went up. And now it was time for someone to pay. Comment fire. Good night, Tom. Love the history lesson. Can't wait for the next one. Definitely won't be as long as waiting for the next Bioshock stream. You're not wrong. Big Mo with a tenor. I know you're talking about American history, but I've always been more fan of the Napoleonic Wars. Bonaparte's definitely my favorite military leader of all time. Can't wait for the movie. I hope it is good. I hope it is good. Oh yeah, we teach all about that. Colts Fire Wilson had a point. We were the #1 economy now. It also says the president of the U.S. becoming the world police. Yeah, that did not work out well, though. That did not work out at all. They set up the League of Nations. The U.S. doesn't even join because Congress is like, no, we're not doing this crap. Isolationism. And now European countries are like, yep, we're going to get what we want. We're going to get what we want. Jared, the loser will wound up being Germany, correct? Correct. So basically, what winds up happening, before we even get to this part, what winds up happening is that David Lloyd George of good old Britain teams up with France and is like, hey, Germany needs to be responsible for this. And they got to pay, too. They got to pay. So, what winds up happening is the French, the British, they do their own thing. They kind of want to, like, have their own empire. They want to rock and roll. The French, though, they're worried about the Germans in the future. And they are also still pissed about World War I, but they're also pissed about the Franco-Prussian War. And so they go, all right, we're going to embarrass Germany as well. Chris Fire, all of Europe are like, who are these Huckabees? You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Okay. So, they agree to the League of Nations. The U.S. winds up not joining. It's super weak, and it's a complete piece of garbage. In 1919, eventually the Treaty of Versailles is going to get signed. And there's an article, it's Article 231, that's the war guilt clause. And it's basically that Germany has to agree that they did all this. They have to accept responsibility for the war. So, again, this is just from a textbook. But billions of dollars, millions of lives lost. Again, the U.S., 91.9% unharmed. Unharmed. They go, we can fix Europe. Worked out well. Worked out really, 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 really well. So, Germany goes from, oh, you couldn't see that? Sorry. Yeah, that's the U.S. There you go. That's the U.S. 91.9. 91.9. Look at all that green. The Brits, they do okay, too. Letters to a tour, and then some German made a bad sequel. It's true. So, in wrapping this up, Germany blamed. They have to accept responsibility. And they have to pay reparations, which we already talked about, by the way. We already talked about that in post-World War I. And these are the scenes for people who come back. Notorious went to 799. Don't get why Austria-Hungary doesn't get blamed for it. So that's a great question, too. Yeah. So Germany takes the front of it. And, like, 100%, it's also because the rivalry, like, that's existing between France and Germany. And, like, Britain's also, you know, friends with them. And Germany is also kind of, like, more of a power. So they're like, all right, yeah, we'll get more out of them. These become a things like masks that are going to hide when troops are disfigured because there are millions of them when they come home. Again, lands are decimated where battles are fought. Can't go back to that. And again, This is how it is now. It's a whole lot worse in World War II. So, you start to see why things look kind of hopeless. Right? Woodrow Wilson, peace out, victory. David Lloyd George like, yo, bro, we want money. We gotta make Britain better. Gotta make Britain better. And yeah, Milford, I'm so glad you brought that up. Austria-Hungary also wasn't a thing. Brand new government. Brand new government. Right? France, they're like, F Germany. We want them weak. We want them weak. We never want them to attack again. Italy turns up because they wind up hanging out with the Allies and they go, hey, so we helped you guys, so we're going to get land, right? No, they're not. And then Eastern Europe, we want, you know that nationalism thing? We want our independence. We want our independence. So, again, what Woodrow Wilson attempts with the 14 points, saying, hey, like, there's not going to be any of this, like, secret diplomacy BS no more. Everybody should be independent and get along. We're going to create a League of Nations, which everyone's going to make sure that there's democracy and everyone's holding hands. Everybody's going to trade. Everybody's also going to reduce their military. This guy has no idea what he's walking into. Woodrow Wilson has no idea what he's walking into. And all the others are like, no, we're not doing that. Because again, the US, they're going to F off back home. And they're going to be like, oh yeah, we're also isolationists now. We're not dealing with anything ever again. Anything ever again. So these are depictions of Wilson steering clear of the rocks. Intervention on the right. Oh. War on the left. Oh! We got to go to the lighthouse because we're twerking on the lighthouse. And there's justice on the lighthouse. And Woodrow Wilson is going to be able to steer Europe right to the promised land. Right to the promised land. Woodrow Wilson sucks. Again. And lighthouse. And lighthouse. So, we're wrapping up, folks. We're almost done here. Here's your good old Treaty of Versailles. Oh, the Hall of Mirrors. The Hall of Mirrors. So, Germany winds up getting full blame for the war. Full blame for the war. That they started it. Again, because they can't blame Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary, new government. They're doing their own thing right now. Eastern Europe is also going to be completely redrawn. I always relate this to like the end of the Napoleonic Wars as well. But basically, they're like satisfying those folks who want independence, or at least they think they're satisfying that. In addition, the Ottoman Empire, which was this huge empire, now there's different states. Oh, and by the way, France and Britain, they'll take care of some of those states. Do you see those impacts today? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So, now, eventually, the Senate, this whole thing gets created, right? Whole thing gets created, and then the Senate's like, nah, we're good. We don't care. We want to do our own thing. So here's the issue, folks. And I want you to pay like real close attention to this. And I should pull up a map again. The US, they F off and they go, we're done. Britain blames Germany for the war. They F off too, because they're chilling on their own too. So now, Germany is blamed from the war. Germany is pissed. And who is right next door? It's not the US. It's not Britain. That's why that's written like that. Because France is literally sitting there because they were worried about German aggression. They also embarrassed the Germans as well. And now they go, oh crap, the League of Nations is not really a thing. It's not doing anything. And now if Germany ever gets pissed, guess who they're hitting? Not a great scenario. And the League of Nations just completely and totally falls apart, right? So, I like to always show what the article is, like Article 231. This is what it says. So the Allied and associated governments affirm, and Germany accepts the responsibility of Germany and her allies for causing all the loss and damage to which the Allied and associated governments and their nationals have been subjugated to as a consequence of the war imposed upon them by the aggression of Germany and her allies. They did it. Remember that political cartoon when they were all pointing at Germany? They did it. You're a German. You're supposed to be the best ever. Military, everything. All the news. You're amazing. Bell, appreciate you. Welcome to the posse. All the news. Then there's an armistice in your crappy little government. Now you get blamed for the war. You have to pay a ton in reparations. Hyperinflation is coming in 1921. And then, of course, Great Depression is coming at the end there, too. Adrian with the 2 hundo! Boop, 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 boop. I'm a foreign service officer with a history degree. Hell yeah! May not agree with historical interpretation, but I love we're here. Hell yeah, let's go. See, here's the thing, too. This is also the context from a College Board written curriculum about AP Euro and how they teach it from a very American-centric view, right? So this is all within the confines of that, because that's how I taught it. Is there more to talk about? Of course there is. That's history, baby. And, like, that's also, like, what makes this interesting, too, because depending on the country you live in or what have you, you will hear and experience history in a very, very different way, which makes it amazing. So, hell yeah, man. We rocking. We rocking. Appreciate you, Adrian. So, that's the Treaty of Versailles. So, France turns around and they're like, hey, we need that payment, that money, those reparations. And Germany's like, well, like, I can't pay this crap. Like, I don't know. I can't. And France goes, all right, we're going to take this land from you. Okay. Germany does not like that. So we already talked about this because you already learned the lesson after this. That their mark becomes completely useless, right? They're using it as kindling, wallpaper, dresses, toys, whatever. Hyperinflation was nuts. Eventually, to pull them out of that is the Dawes Plan. So that comes out in 1924, and it's basically the United States going, hey, Germany, we got you. We'll make sure you're able to kind of like pay everything back. Your economy won't be complete garbage because after hyperinflation, all that stuff is worthless. They have to get a new currency. Again, we already talked about all that. But what is the problem of this? Like, what's the issue with the Dawes Plan? Velvet Fire cannot say that the Treaty of Versailles wasn't a catalyst of Nazi rise in Germany. Sure, absolutely. It's also just dissent in Germany, too, because it's not just the Nazi party that's there. But yeah, absolutely. They don't trust their own government. What's wrong with the Dawes Plan? It depends on foreign investment. And X said it. The Great Depression. So that's all well and good. U.S. is like, I got you. Foreign investment. Rockin'. Yeah. Great Depression. Also, the Weimar Republic is straight garbage. Again, we kind of talked about that a little bit already in the other lesson. So, Great Depression, very famous, like, United States, right? Picture. But Great Depression, people start losing their jobs, right? Unemployment lines in the US. That is going to lead to the pulling out of money and foreign investment. And I told you the biggest difference between hyperinflation with Germany and the Great Depression, they hold on to their jobs during hyperinflation. Great Depression, gone. Gone. So, just to give you some numbers, real quick, before we jump, there's like a couple more pictures, and this is all over. Okay? Give you some numbers. 21 million people wounded. 35% of all German males from the ages of 19 and 22 were killed in World War I. I'm going to say that again. 35% of all German men between the ages of 19 and 22 were killed in World War I. Those numbers. SJ Tenor, and once the money ran dry, people need someone to blame. This is when the stereotype of stingy Jews taking money from everyone else and keeping them for themselves arose in Germany. Oh, it was already there. But they know, so one of the things were, they had people who had businesses and they were Jewish. They're like, oh, why are you doing well? Targeted immediately. But yeah, I do a whole lesson on that about like rise of anti-Semitism. Adrian 20, you're drifting from World War I. Be good people. Sure. We're almost there. We're almost there. Samuel Tanner, now you mentioned different version of history. I wonder how you teach Mexican-U.S. war started, because I heard two different sides of the story, and I don't know which to believe, not to change the current topic. Yeah. Well, depending on where you learn, you will get two different answers. Give you a tour, losing that number of men and still going to World War II. Yep. So, Germany, 2 million soldiers killed. Austria-Hungary, 1.2 million. Turkey, 325,000. Bulgaria, 100,000. Britain, 750,000 killed, 1.5 million wounded. France, 1.4 million killed, 2.5 million wounded. Belgium, 50,000. Italy, 600,000. Russia, upwards of 1.7 million, probably more. America, about 116,000. So I share those numbers, and then I show you this. This is World War I. Right before the war breaks out. These are troops marching to go to the war front. And they are happy. This event changes the world. And they're happy walking into it. And if they walk out, and that's a big if, what is left? What is left? Happy. They are celebrating. Because war is this beautiful, romanticized, glory building, legend building. And you're in a hole in the mud. Your friends are dead. And you're not home by Christmas. This is the reality of it. That to that. Because make no mistake, they are children. They are children being sent out to the front line. Like we're talking 12, 14, 15. That is the reality of it. And if they do go home, never the same. Never the same. And I'm not even talking about just being maimed. I'm not talking about, PTSD. I'm talking about you're also walking back into a world that is just trying to go, okay, like back to normal. Like I like to, it's nowhere near as equivalent to like to this. But COVID, that was a world trauma, right? That like the world was like, all right, let's kind of go back to normal and pretend everything's cool now, even though it's not. Now imagine that with all of this, because Austria-Hungary was pissed off at Serbia. And so it makes sense. We talked about it. That one on the right, Otto Dix. That's the kind of art that's going to come out. Because what do you do? What do you make? This is a world trauma. Roaring 20s, baby. YOLO. We are just going to spend and drink, dance, because why not? Because why not? That is what you're dealing with. And I show this overhead one because, again, this is just a tiny cropped out version. When we're talking about millions of people dead, it gets lost very easily because it's very difficult to comprehend that. But this is what it is. To go from this to that. Whiskey with a Fitty! Boop! Saying, as someone who loves history, Tom, thank you. I would have had so much fun learning in your class. I appreciate that, Whiskey. We rockin'. Listen, I love history, and it's a very fascinating topic, too. So, I appreciate you, Whiskey. And so, I actually show this picture at the very end. This is actually, there's some very strong claims that this is a fake photograph, which actually makes this photograph even better. Talking about kind of like going into World War I, and that's supposed to represent Hitler. And there are people who say like this is fake because Hitler kind of talks about being like, oh, I should have been there, like I was there. And this is the kind of like propaganda that's going to start to pop up. And my favorite version of this, by the way. Oh, Gene, thank you so much for the tenor. I appreciate you. My favorite version of this, and this will be the last thing I leave you with before we chillax and start calling it an evening. So Stalin, there's a movie made, I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. There's a movie made that's a pure propaganda movie. And in the movie, and I've talked about this on stream before, there's an actor who portrays Stalin that flies into Berlin and steps out, and like all these people surround and cheer, and it's like concentration camp survivors, it's the French, it's like Americans, it's like everybody like, wow, Stalin's so amazing. At the premiere of that movie, there's a military dude there, and he gets super duper drunk. And he turns to the person next to him, and he goes, that never happened. Stalin wasn't there. That guy gets thrown into a gulag. So, this kind of stuff goes, oh, I should have been there. Oh, I was there. Because when we start talking about cults of personality, when we start talking about this interwar period, people are desperate. They're looking for answers. And there's people who come along that go, I got answers for you. And a lot of it lead back to all these points. So that's World War I.